Chapter 1720, I Promise You. Chapter 1720, I Promise You. In a crimson robe and carrying a sword on his back. The attire was really similar to Hishio back when he was wandering. The incoming person was Jian Wushuang. He had arrived in the void long ago, but he didn't reveal himself. He intended to wait until the fight start to grab the Taiching ancient panaceas during the chaos, then leave immediately. However, he had never expected that the fight couldn't take place. Hishio was very careful, smart, and also mad. With him having the idea to burn himself to death together with the elixirs, no one knew what to do with him. He had no choice and he could only come forward. Otherwise, the Taiching ancient panaceas would be destroyed. Before the experts' gazes, Jian Wushuang appeared in the void next to Hishio. You said earlier that whoever killed the king of Holy King of Real Wushu and the head of Ling family Ling Tianxiao for you'll give the Taiching ancient panaceas to? Jian Wushuang looked at Hishio with a cold look. Yes, Hishio nodded heavily, but the hatred in his eyes didn't diminish. Besides that, do you have any other conditions? Jian Wushuang continued to ask. This? Hishio was stunned and creased his eyebrows as he said, if possible, bring me away from here alive, away from Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Jian Wushuang lifted the corner of his lips. He knew that although Hishio was prepared to burn himself to death with the elixirs, he didn't really want to die. He was truly a god's favored one. Unless he had no choice, why would he be willing to die like that? Your conditions, I promise you. Jian Wushuang said and turned around to look at the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. He then walked slowly. As Jian Wushuang walked to the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, every expert's face grew awkward. Emperor Sword, Lei creased his eyebrows. He knew Jian Wushuang. He had wanted to invite Jian Wushuang to join his team previously to fight against the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. It was a pity that Jian Wushuang had rejected him. Then he had thought Jian Wushuang was arrogant. From the looks of him then he wasn't arrogant, simply insane. There was no one who dared to take action against the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, but he had agreed to Hishio's conditions to kill the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. You have guts. You killed Elder Ling Yan from Ling family and dared to appear before me. There was a loud roar and the one who spoke was the head of Ling family Ling Tianxiao. Then, his hair was fluttering in the air and his eyes were burning with rage. However, Jian Wushuang didn't bother to look at the head of Ling family and his gaze was fixed upon the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. King of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, you heard Hishio's conditions. In order to get the Taiching ancient panaceas. I'm sorry, Jian Wushuang's cold voice reverberated. Haha, there's really someone unafraid of death. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu looked on in disdain. You're only an eternal real god. Just how idiotic can you be? Everyone at the scene looked at Jian Wushuang as though he was an idiot. Among them there were people who could tell Jian Wushuang was only an eternal real god. How could an eternal real god be so outrageously arrogant? King of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, let me take care of this person, Ling Tianxiao said in a deep voice. He killed the experts from Ling family. I happen to want to take revenge. I never thought that he would take the initiative to meet me. Alright then. You can take care of him. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu smiled coldly. He couldn't be bothered to fight against an eternal real god. Ling Tianxiao smirked coldly as he spread his fierce aura and slowly walked forward. Jian Wushuang shook his head and smiled at the sight. Save the trouble. I can take care of you in one go. Then Jian Wushuang extended his hand and pointed in the direction which the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and Ling Tianxiao were in with his right index finger. Hong. The sky and earth shattered. An ancient, huge finger that gave out boundless light appeared from nowhere. The huge finger that could destroy heaven and earth appeared and the surrounding void shattered instantly. The entire universe was shaking madly. Ling Tianxiao was originally fueled with murderous intention, but he was dumbfounded the moment he saw the huge finger. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu behind him was staring with his eyes wide open too. He was terrified and he wanted to run away, but he couldn't escape in time. Rumble. The huge finger first hit Ling Tianxiao, then continued to charge forward. It pressed past the crowd, then the universe calmed down. Then ancient huge finger dispersed entirely. Just as the finger pressed past the void, there wasn't any figure left but only flesh that had yet to be crushed into pieces. Then there was a strong blood smell that spread. This. Everyone at the scene was dumbfounded by the sight. Ling Tianxiao and the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu died? Lei stared with his eyes wide open while he gasped a breath of cold air. Dead. Yes, after one finger point, not only did he kill Ling Tianxiao right at the front, but he also killed the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu behind him. He also killed the bunch of real gods that the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu that brought along with him. The king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu had brought a total of 3 chaotic real gods and a dozen of eternal real gods. After the finger point, all of them had vanished into thin air. Jian Wushuang did all that and he still looked like he couldn't be bothered. He took the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and the other's Chen Kuan ring, then his figure turned illusionary and he came before He Xiu. He Xiu gulped. He looked at the person before him in astonishment. Then there was an unprecedented thrill in his eyes. Dead. The bastard is finally dead. Ling Tianxiao, he's dead as well. They're all dead. The revenge for He family is taken. He Xiu roared and there was madness in his voice. He had already been hopeless at first. He had had no way out, so he had wanted to bet with the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas. He wanted to take revenge. As for his life, he couldn't be bothered anymore. However, he also knew that it was too difficult to kill the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu within his own holy kingdom. He had only had a little hope, but in the end, it had really succeeded. There was really someone who had killed the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu and Ling Tianxiao before him. The people who you want to kill, I have already killed them for you. Give me the Taiching ancient panaceas. Jian Wushuang extended his hand and there was a certain dignity in his eyes. He Xiu's heart skipped a beat and he looked at Jian Wushuang with admiration and gratitude. He didn't hesitate and passed Jian Wushuang the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas that he had been holding tightly in his hand. You have a clear view of things, Jian Wushuang smiled. He put the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas into his Chen Kuan ring before everyone. If Jian Wushuang wanted to, he could totally kill He Xiu as well. The real gods couldn't do anything about He Xiu and only be threatened by him. However, Jian Suhuang had only needed a simple soul attack to kill He Xiu in silence. He wouldn't even have had the time to shatter the Taiching ancient panaceas. It was just that Jian Wushuang didn't do that. Chapter 1721, An Almighty's Anger. Chapter 1721, An Almighty's Anger. Next, I will bring you out of the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Don't resist. As Jian Wushuang looked at He Xiu who was in front of him, with a thought, his blood mountain sword came out of the scabbard and changed into a lofty mountain instantly. The lofty mountain was filled with special secret patterns and they covered He Xiu straight away. He Xiu remained silent. He did not resist and allowed Jian Wushuang to put him in the blood mountain sword. After finishing that, Jian Wushuang's eyes looked around the surroundings. Around him, there were countless experts from 16 other holy kingdoms. Among them there were unordinary real gods as well as chaotic real gods. However, when those experts sensed Jian Wushuang's gaze, all of them revealed a fearful expression. Although they knew that the Taiching ancient panaceas had already fallen into Jian Wushuang's hands, no one dared to harbor any greedy thoughts. What a joke. Previously, the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu himself had already made them so fearful that all of them did not dare to attack. As for Jian Wushuang who stood in front of them, he was a super existence who had killed the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu with just a swing of his hands. Seems like this is it. All of a sudden, a deep voice could be heard. After that, a vast amount of dense fog started to gather at the center of the void and an aquiline-nosed old man was revealed in the end. When the old man appeared, he did not release any aura. However, he still caused many real gods who were present to shiver in fear. Lord Lu Yin. Greetings to Lord Lu Yin. Many real god experts present greeted the approaching person in succession. All of them were filled with respect and admiration. Sir God Lu Yin was the real ruler of the 16 surrounding holy kingdoms, as well as the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Although the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu was the leader of the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu on the surface, in actual fact, with just a word from Sir God Lu Xan, he would give up his position of king without hesitation. For the fight this time around, even though many experts from the 16 holy kingdoms had participated in it, all of them knew that no matter who obtained the Taiching ancient panaceas in the end, they would be presented to Sir God Lu Yin. Sir God Lu Yin swept his eyes past everyone around him and his bleary eyes locked onto Jian Wushuang. You are called Sword Emperor, right? Your abilities are not too bad. My Chen Kuan ring has 1,000 doctrine gems and some other treasures. They shall be considered your reward. Sir God Lu Yin took out a Chen Kuan ring and tossed it toward Jian Wushuang. Also, since the king of Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu has already died, A holy kingdom cannot be missing a king. If you are willing to, you can become the king of this holy kingdom right away. Upon hearing Sir God Lu Yin's words, many experts present were shocked. That's Lord Lu Yin's reward. A total of 1,000 doctrine gems as well as many treasures. In addition, he can also become the king of holy kingdom of real Wushu straight away. Oh my gosh. Lord Lu Yin is indeed an almighty as he is really generous. However, it's a pity that the rewards have been obtained by the Sword Emperor. Countless gazes gathered on Jian Wushuang and they were filled with envy. They were indeed envious of Jian Wushuang. From their point of view, Sir God Lu Yin's reward was too great. For example, even Di Lei's eyes were looking at Jian Wushuang and filled with enviousness. However, there was nothing that he could do. This reward was given to Jian Wushuang by Sir God Lu Yin and none of them had the right to get it. However, upon seeing the Chen Kuan ring that Sir God Lu Yin had tossed over, Jian Wushuang did not extend his hand to catch it. He then glanced at Sir God Lu Yin and laughed indifferently. I'm sorry. I'm not interested in your reward. The only thing that I am interested in is the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas. The void, which was originally lively, became quiet instantly. At that moment, the countless gazes, which were originally filled with envy, filled with astonishment. He did not want the reward. He was only interested in the Taiching ancient panaceas. What is he trying to do? Di Lei opened his eyes wide. Could it be that his ultimate objective of getting the Taiching ancient panaceas is not to get the reward of Lord Lu Yin? Sir God Lu Yin's eyes turned grave and he shot a glance at Jian Wushuang. Little kid, do you know what you are saying? Of course I know. I said that I am only interested in the Taiching ancient panaceas. Since they have already landed in my hands, I will not give them away again. Hence, I will naturally not give them to you. In addition, there is another point. In the eternal chaotic world, there are not many people who have the right to call me little kid. At the very least you, Sir God Lu Yin, do not have the right to do so, Jian Wushuang sneered. What a joke. At that time he possessed the fighting capabilities of a Sir God and he was at the same level as Sir God Lu Yin. Since their abilities were similar, they should be talking on equal grounds. Little kid. That was the way an elder would address a junior, or the way a strong person would address a weak person. What great courage. Within the 16 holy kingdoms, you are the first person who dares to provoke me. Sir God Lu Yin was not furious. However, murderous intent flashed in his eyes, which were looking at Jian Wushuang. Boom. The universe shook. The void in front of Sir God Lu Yin changed into waves that looked like a sea of divine power immediately and headed toward Jian Wushuang. In the places that the waves passed by, the voids were all torn into pieces. Such a scene caused many experts present to reveal a fearful expression. All of them knew that Sir God Lu Yin had attacked. An Almighty was furious. As for his way of attacking, he did not use any techniques. He merely unleashed a sea of divine power with a thought. However, as the sea of divine power could destroy everything in the universe, the power that it contained caused everyone present to feel hopeless. An Almighty. These are the abilities of an Almighty. Some people present could not help but gasp in admiration and roar furiously. Di Lei also clenched both his fists tightly and his eyes were filled with shock. To them, an Almighty was a legendary existence as well as an omnipotent God. There was only one kind of ending for someone who offended an Almighty, and that was death. The Sword Emperor was finished. However, upon seeing the sea of divine power heading over to him, Jian Wushuang placed both his hands behind his hand and did not move in the slightest. Moreover, he also wore an indifferent smile. Break. He merely uttered a word softly. However, it was like a clap of thunder that resounded across the whole universe. The sea of divine power which was heading over seemed to be cut open by a sharp cutting edge and it was split into 2 halves. In addition, the infinite amount of divine power of the sea of divine power also spread in all directions madly. However, none of it spread to Jian Wushuang. Many experts around the area were extremely shocked. It was an attack by Sir God Lu Yin. However, in the end, Jian Wushuang did not make any movements like before and he dispersed the attack by merely uttering a word softly. What kind of ability was that? Sir God Lu Yin's eyes squinted and his expression turned grave. Even though you are merely an eternal God, your divine power is not inferior to mine. If my guess is not wrong, you should be Jian Wushuang. Sir God Lu Yin stared at Jian Wushuang and his voice could be heard. Sir God Lu Yin, you took so long to recognize me. Your judgment is not really good, Jian Wushuang laughed. Chapter 1722 Jian Wushuang and Sir God Lu Yin. Chapter 1722, Jian Wushuang and Sir God Lu Yin. It's really you, Sir God Lu Yin's face grew dim. He was also a member of Sanctuary Alliance and he had also heard of Jian Wushuang, but he only knew Jian Wushuang's name and some of his deeds. He had no idea how Jian Wushuang dressed. After all, he shared no relationship with lineage of Star and he never thought to have dealings with Jian Wushuang. At the beginning when he saw Jian Wushuang, he didn't recognize Jian Wushuang. But the moment he saw the power that Jian Wushuang displayed, an eternal real god who could withstand his attacks so easily, he reckoned that there was only Jian Wushuang alone who could do that in eternal chaotic world. When the experts from the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms heard Jian Wushuang's name, everyone was confused. Then they quickly realized Jian Wushuang's identity. Jian Wushuang, the first place on Real God ranking list, Jian Wushuang. Oh my goodness, it's him. First place on Real God ranking list. Along with cries of astonishment, everyone finally understood why Jian Wushuang had had the guts to provoke Sir God Lu Yin. The difference between a real god and an almighty was ridiculously vast. In eternal chaotic world, there wouldn't be more than 3 real gods who could be qualified to challenge an almighty. However, Jian Wushuang definitely had the capability to. Jian Wushuang, I should have never offended you nor should I have offended lineage of Star, right? Sir God Lu Yin looked coldly at Jian Wushuang. You didn't, but I really have to get the Taiching ancient panaceas. So I'm sorry, Jian Wushuang smiled. If so, there's nothing much to say. I heard long ago that you are known as the top genius in eternal chaotic world and also an inverse cultivator. You just became an eternal chaotic real god and you could fight against a Sir God. I'd like to see it in person today. Sir God Lu Yin's face grew cold. What tricks do you have? Go ahead and perform them. Jian Wushuang said with confidence. Excuse my immodesty, Sir God Lu Yin's gaze grew sharp. Hong. The void quivered and a boundless divine power suddenly flowed out. It then formed huge gale dragons in front of Sir God Lu Yin. Every single gale dragon was 100 zhang long. There were more than 100 of gale dragons of that size that formed instantly and roared simultaneously. Then they pounded at Jian Wushuang among the fierce winds. Jian Wushuang could only feel a terrifying storm pressing at him and he immediately withdrew Blood Mountain Sword. Virum. There was a soaring sword intention that seemed to be tearing everything apart. Jian Wushuang stood there facing the wine but the surrounding people saw his figure vanish into thin air like a sharp sword that was going to pierce the sky. He raised Blood Mountain Sword high in the sky and there were shrill crimson sword shadows that appeared in the void instantly. Every single crimson sword shadow could destroy heaven and earth and was sufficient to strike fear in the hearts of the surrounding real gods, including those chaotic real gods. In an instant, there were 61 crimson sword shadows that carried such power which appeared in the air. The 61 crimson sword shadows appeared and were immediately superposed onto one another. 10,000 waves break. Jian Wushuang's voice shook the earth and he slashed Blood Mountain Sword downwards. The brand new sword shadow made of the 61 crimson sword shadows suddenly swung out. The sword shadow soared and instantly tore the gale dragons that were charging towards him into pieces. Then, in a short time, it swept out the gale dragon. There were some that were cut across from the middle and broke apart too. The boundless divine power spread in all directions but suddenly, there was a hole in the middle of the divine power, a figure stepped out from the opening. He was Sir God Lu Yin. There was murderous intention in his eyes. His right hand became a claw and he pounded at Jian Wushuang to claw the void. The sharp claw magnified and it was like a dragon's claw at an unbelievable speed. The claw caught Jian Wushuang and Jian Wushuang's body instantly shattered into pieces. Sir God Lu Yi wasn't surprised at the sight but he looked solemn. The one he clawed it was only a shadow. Virum. Virum. There were 2 ear-piercing noises. Although the sound wasn't loud, Sir God Lu Yin heard it clearly. Then there were 2 rays of golden light next to him as well. The 2 rays of golden light were brilliant and extremely fast in speed. Sir God Lu Yin waved and there were 2 flowing lights that swept out too. Dang. Dang. There was a loud clash and the 2 golden lights were shaken off. However, Sir God Lu Yin took a few steps back before he steadied himself too. Then there were 2 flywheels that appeared in his hand. One of them was white and the other one was black. They gave out a unique aura which was quite creepy. In the void before Sir God Lu Yin, Jian Wushuang stood there with one hand holding his sword. In front of him, the 2 Hongjun golden swords were each on both sides of his body. Those are the golden swords that you used to injure Sir God Qianlan? Sir God Luyin glanced at the Tu Hongjun golden sword and his gaze was cold. They are quite powerful, but I wonder how are they against my life and death flywheels? Why not give it a try? Then you'll know, Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Because he had known that he would run into Sir God Luyin, he had already read through some information about Sir God Luyin on his way there. He knew that Sir God Luyin was one of the top Sir Gods. Compared to Sir God Qianlan that he had fought with previously, he was much stronger and Sir God Luyin was best with his life and death flywheels. The two flywheels represented life and death each and displayed Sir God Luyin's comprehension of life and death doctrine flawlessly. Life and death doctrine, one of the 9 heaven god doctrine, focused on being creepy. Die. Jian Wushuang bellowed and the two Hongjun golden swords that were floating in the air suddenly shook and turned into 2 resplendent golden lights. They burst out and left 2 golden straight lines in the void. On the other hand, Sir God Luyin drove his 2 flywheels. Swoosh, swoosh. The flywheels flew past the void and the speed was shockingly fast too. Dang, 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 dang. The repeated clashing noise rang in the void. Both parties gave full play to their divine powers and comprehension towards doctrines respectively. Hongjun golden sword and the black and white flywheel that represented life and death clashed again and again. Just the overflowing power that spread was enough to rip a huge black hole in the void. Occasionally the impact spread to the border of the battlefield and a large number of experts were terrified. The battle was a vigorous fight between almighties. It wasn't a fight that any universe gods or real gods at the scene could get involved in. Even if one were a chaotic real god, they reckoned the chaotic real god might be exterminated by the power of the exchange blows. Hong, hong, hong. The void was torn apart again and again, but it recovered again and again. The battle between the two was becoming white-hot. Chapter 1723, Leaving Leisurely. Chapter 1723, Leaving Leisurely. For you to be able to fight with my life and death flywheels like this, your golden swords are really peculiar. No wonder Sir God Qianlan suffered great losses at your hands. However, although the golden swords are strong and your divine power is not weak, your level of comprehension of the power of Heaven Wei is too low. Sir God Luyin's eyes were glowing with a shrill light like lightning. All of a sudden his white and black flywheels combined and formed a completely new flywheel. Fusion of life and death, kill. Sir God Luyin gave a cry. The new black and white flywheel then unleashed an incomparable speed instantly and clashed with the two Hongjun golden swords. Clang, clang. 2 low, deep sounds could be heard. The two Hongjun golden swords were actually sent flying unreasonably for hundreds of miles. As for the black and white flywheel, it seemed to be not hindered at all and it continued to head toward Jian Wushuang. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He did not expect the combined power of Sir God's Luyin 2 flywheels to be so powerful. He then released his divine power immediately. Ancient God's secret skill, 8 divine mountains. Bang, 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 bang. Loud sounds could be heard repeatedly. All of a sudden golden lofty divine mountains descended. Every golden divine mountain was 100,000 feet tall and they were emitting brilliant golden light that was dazzling. Moreover, there was a total of 8 divine mountains. The 8 golden divine mountains appeared in front of Jian Wushuang and acted as 8 protective screens. The black and white flywheel headed over with lightning speed and the frightening power that it contained destroyed the first 7 divine mountains instantly. However, it was stopped by the 8th divine mountain, the final divine mountain. What strong power! 7 of the 8 divine mountains that I have unleashed with my full power were actually destroyed instantly. Jian Wushuang's eyes were filled with shock. The 8 divine mountains was the only defense-type secret skill among the ancient god secret skills and it was extremely powerful. When it was unleashed with Jian Wushuang's current divine power, it could stop the attacks of normal Sir Gods easily. However, for the flywheel of Sir God Luyin, although the 8 divine mountains had stopped it, the 8 divine mountains had reached their limits as well. Haha, as expected of Sir God Luyin. Your abilities are indeed impressive. Today I, Jian Wushuang, have learned a great lesson from you. I shall take my leave now. A hearty and loud laugh echoed across the universe. The 2 Hongjun golden swords had already returned to Jian Wushuang and were put into Jian Wushuang's Qian Kuan ring. As for Jian Wushuang, he turned his body straight away and was about to leave. You wish to run? Sir God Luyin's face turned cold. Don't think of escaping without leaving the Taiqing ancient panaceas behind. Ha, what a joke. If I want to escape, do you think that you can stop me? Jian Wushuang laughed disdainfully. By activating the secret skill Flowing Light Phantom, thousands upon thousands of shadows appeared. At the same time he also unleashed the secret skill of Dragon Blood. The moment he unleashed the secret skill of Dragon Blood, his speed rose greatly. In addition, Jian Wushuang had comprehended the spacetime doctrine and he had always been proficient in speed to begin with. Hence, he had already escaped very far away in an instant. Sir God Lu Yin wanted to give chase. However, he was unable to catch up to him at all. In the void, Sir God Lu Yin's figure had already stopped moving. As he looked in the direction that Jian Wushuang disappeared to, his body trembled and he was filled with dissatisfaction. Jian Wushuang, I shall remember what happened today. Sir God Lu Yin clenched both his fists tightly and his eyes were filled with flames of fury. In the surrounding void, when the experts from the 16 holy kingdoms witnessed such a scene, all of them had extremely puzzled expressions. In their eyes, Sir God Lu Yin was an invincible existence. However, on that very day Sir God Lu Yin was made a fool of by someone else and he had suffered a great loss. Moreover, the person who had caused that was merely a real god. His name was Jian Wushuang, the number 1 on the real god ranking list. After leaving the Yuming mountain, Jian Wushuang slowed down and he moved forward in the void slowly. Sir God Lu Yin. No wonder he has such a big reputation in the eternal chaotic world. His abilities are really not fake, Jian Wushuang gasped in admiration. In actual fact, when comparing abilities for real, Sir God Lu Yin was indeed slightly stronger than him and Jian Wushuang agreed with this point. If they were to go all out, Jian Wushuang would only have a slight chance at victory by unleashing all his trump cards. However, Sir God Lu Yin was too careless and he had allowed Jian Wushuang to obtain the Taiching ancient panaceas first, obtaining the absolute opportunity as a result. Originally he had thought that everything was under his control. Without the need to even show himself, someone would naturally present the Taiching ancient panaceas to him obediently. However, he totally did not expect me to participate in this fight as well, Jian Wushuang laughed. The Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu was Sir God Lu Yin's territory and he knew everything inside out. He knew that apart from him, no other Almighty was present in the whole Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Other than that, he naturally did not need to worry about the group of real gods. Even if the Taiching ancient panaceas were to fall into the hands of Jian Wushuang, he was also not worried in the slightest. It was only after he knew of Jian Wushuang's abilities and identity that he started to feel anxious. However, by then it was already too late. The Taiching ancient panaceas had already fallen into the hands of Jian Wushuang. Although he was slightly stronger than Jian Wushuang, he was still unable to kill Jian Wushuang. As such, there was nothing he could do to Jian Wushuang. However, if it were another Almighty who came, Sir God Lu Yin would definitely be extremely vigilant and he would have come personally to get the Taiching ancient panaceas a long time ago. Luck, Jian Wushuang murmured. For him to obtain the Taiching ancient panaceas this time around, it was indeed partially down to luck. As for him provoking Sir God Lu Yin as a result of that, Jian Wushuang was not concerned in the slightest bit. Sir God Lu Yin was just a Sir God and at present he was unable to do anything against Jian Wushuang. As for the future, he would be completely unable to do anything against Jian Wushuang. As Jian Wushuang traveled, he left the boundaries of the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu in no time. In a black void, with a swing of Jian Wushuang's hands, He Xiu, who was stored in the Blood Mountain Sword, was released. I am He Xiu. Greetings to Lord. He Xiu greeted Jian Wushuang respectfully. His eyes were filled with a great amount of admiration and excitement. Previously, Jian Wushuang had put him inside the Blood Mountain Sword so that it would be more convenient for him to bring him out of the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Inside the Blood Mountain Sword, he was not restrained at all and he could see everything that occurred outside clearly. He had witnessed Jian Wushuang and the legendary Sir God Lu Yin fighting clearly. Moreover, they were fighting head-on. However, in the end, Sir God Lu Yin was unable to do anything to Jian Wushuang. It was obvious that although Jian Wushuang was only a real god, his fighting capabilities were of the level of an almighty. Since an almighty was standing in front of him, so He Xiu was naturally respectful. I have already fulfilled your request to bring you out of the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu. Hence, neither of us owe each other anything now, Jian Wushuang said. After speaking, Jian Wushuang turned to leave. Wait, He Xiu spoke hurriedly. Chapter 1724 Registered Disciple. Chapter 1724, Registered Disciple. What's the matter? Jian Wushuang glanced at He Xiu. He Xiu took a deep breath and he then immediately knelt before Jian Wushuang and said, I earnestly request for Mr. to take me on as your disciple. I will definitely serve you for the rest of my life. Disciple? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. He had only taken in one disciple officially in his life. It was Lin Lan back in ancient worlds who had really formally been apprenticed to him. As for Jianghu that he had met in Qingtian Mystery Land during his third inverse cultivation test, although he gave pointers to him, strictly speaking, Jianghu wasn't his disciple and he had yet to reach the criteria to be his disciple. However, he Xiao before him. Frankly speaking, Jian Wushuang quite liked he Xiao. He liked him mainly because of his disposition. He was determined. He had a mad heart that was daring to give his all and bet his all. Regardless of if it was when he hid in Yuming Mountains and the experts from the surrounding 16 holy kingdoms couldn't find him for over 20 years or when he had made his last best with the Taiching ancient panaceas when he had no way to go, Jian Wushuang was in awe of what he did. However, Jian Wushuang didn't intend to take on any disciples. He Xiao, I heard that you're good with swords? Jian Wushuang looked at he Xiao. Yes, he Xiao nodded heavily. Show me. Jian Wushuang looked calm. He flipped his hand and there was a long sword in his hand. Show me all you've got. He Xiao stood up and looked at Jian Wushuang in front of him. His face grew solemn. He knew that Jian Wushuang had given him a chance. The chance was hard to come by and there was only one. He had to grasp it. He took a deep breath, then there was a crimson sword in he Xiao's hands too. The crimson sword looked rather vicious. Suddenly he Xiao moved. There was a sudden crimson light and it was piercingly cold, yet enchanting. The moment it appeared, it substituted the lights in the universe. He Xiao concentrated his understanding of swordsmanship over the years and all his power into the stroke. That stroke was already a real god level of unique skill. Looking at the crimson light, Jian Wushuang was surprised. He had originally thought he Xiao was only an ordinary family disciple of a holy kingdom. Although he was a genius, Jian Wushuang couldn't be bothered with a genius in a holy kingdom. When he saw he Xiao's actions, Jian Wushuang realized that he was wrong. Genius was normally found where it was least expected. He Xiao was absolutely a genius. He should have turned into universe god in the third heaven not long ago, but he already created real god-level unique skill. Most importantly, he has already comprehended a slight bit of power of heaven way. Jian Wushuang could clearly feel that there was a slight bit of extermination power in he Xiao's stroke. Although his comprehension level was low and he had merely comprehended a slight bit, it was impressive for a universe god. 100 universe gods on universe god ranking list, he Xiao will at least be in the top 50, Jian Wushuang complimented as he moved. A simple yet calm stroke as though it didn't contain any power, but it happened to hit he Xiao's crimson sword. He Xiao's sword momentum instantly dissolved and he staggered. He couldn't help but took a few steps back. How did it happen? He Xiao looked surprised. He obviously had yet to respond. He saw Jian Wushuang's stroke didn't contain much power, nor contain much mystery. He didn't even use any power of heaven way, but he broke his sword momentum so easily. Sword principle. It's his understanding of sword principle. Mr.'s understanding of sword principle is far beyond my imagination. He Xiao clenched his hand tightly and there was a great commotion in his heart. Jian Wushuang's eyes were twinkling with curiosity too. No matter if it is his swordsmanship, comprehension of power of heaven, or his talent, they are all extremely good. Plus, his disposition is great. He Xiao, Jian Wushuang looked at him. Mister, he Xiao replied politely. You are quite powerful. In swordsmanship you're highly talented too. You are really a genius that is hard to come by. If it were to be any other swordsman, I think they would be dying to take you on as their disciple, but I'm different. Jian Wushuang said coldly, my focus is to chase more power. I hardly have the time to teach a disciple. If you really want to be under me, I can only take you in as a registered disciple and give you simple guidance. As for if I would take you on as a lineal disciple, it depends on your capability and performance. Are you willing? Of course I am, he Xiao looked thrilled. He immediately knelt down before Jian Wushuang and kowtowed politely. Disciple he Xiao greets master. Get up then. Jian Wushuang waved and he Xiao felt a bolt of energy that guided him to stand up on his feet instantly. As you are my disciple you should know my name. I am Jian Wushuang from lineage of Star. Also I am an inverse cultivator, Jian Wushuang said. Inverse cultivator? He Xiao was surprised. He had heard about inverse cultivators but he didn't know much. I'll bring you back to lineage of Star first. As for other matters you'll slowly find out, Jian Wushuang said. He Xiao nodded, but he suddenly paused. Oh yeah, master. One more thing, it's about this. He Xiao flipped his wrist and there was a weird-looking jade sword in his hand. The jade sword was made of an unknown jade. Even Jian Wushuang couldn't determine it. The jade sword obviously didn't look like it was for killing, but it should be something like a token. What is this? Jian Wushuang was confused. The jade sword is like the Taiching ancient panacea. My father found them in Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling. My father told me that the jade sword was related to a great opportunity and he told me to take good care of it. As for what the opportunity is, he had no idea either, He Xiao replied honestly. Opportunity? Jian Wushuang was interested. Then he recalled the information that Yuming Pub provided. It had said that not only did he family receive the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas from Sir God Danhong's cave dwelling, they had also got an opportunity, but no one knew what opportunity it was. The people who chased after He Xiao were attracted the Taiching ancient panaceas and they forgot about the opportunity. It seemed like the opportunity would be the jade sword. But, looking at the jade sword itself, Jian Wushuang had no idea what it represented. Wait till Hall Master Yuan and the others see the jade sword, they might know the origin of the jade sword, Jian Wushuang thought. He Xiao, let's go. Follow me back to the lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang said. He Xiao naturally followed Jian Wushuang obediently. The two of them sat in the spaceship as it traveled to lineage of Star directly. Chapter 1725 Blood Cloud Palace. Chapter 1725 Blood Cloud Palace. Jian Wushuang and He Xiao appeared in a gorgeous and brilliant Milky Way. This is the Milky Way and this is the base of the lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang brought He Xiao along with him and walked in the stretch of Milky Way slowly. Along the way he introduced the lineage of Star to He Xiao continuously. As He Xiao listened he became extremely shocked. Previously he had grown up in the holy kingdom of real Wushu. Although he had heard of the 10 sanctuaries, he had never really gone there before. It was not until then that he knew how prosperous the 10 sanctuaries were and a holy kingdom could not be compared to them. For example, the lineage of Star was a huge monster to him and it was many times bigger and more powerful than the holy kingdom of real Wushu that he had been in previously. As Jian Wushuang introduced the lineage of Star, he also sighed with emotion. It should be known that tens of thousands of years ago, when Lei Chao had brought him to the lineage of Star for the first time, his expression had been the same as He Xiao's. In a flash, tens of thousands of years had passed. At that moment, he was one of the hall masters of the lineage of Star and he was known for his mighty name in the eternal chaotic world. As for He Xiao, it was also unknown what he would become tens of thousands of years later. In no time, Jian Wushuang brought He Xiao along with him and entered the base of the lineage of Star for real. They then walked around randomly amidst the group of buildings. Along the way they came across quite a number of experts of disciples of the lineage of Star. When those people saw Jian Wushuang they became extremely respectful. That's Hall Master Wushuang, the most impressive genius in the whole history of the lineage of Star. Although Hall Master Wushuang is not an almighty, he is still superior to almighties. On the real God ranking list he is ranked first. Some older disciples were giving some introductions or bragging to the new disciples. Of course they also noticed the existence of He Xiao. Who is that person? Hall Master Wushuang actually showed him the way personally? Even Star Palace disciples don't have the right for him to do that, right? This person should be Hall Master Wushuang's disciple. Disciple. At once, gazes which were filled with envy looked in the direction of He Xiao. With Jian Wushuang's current abilities and position, there were many disciples in the eternal chaotic world who were fighting to get him to be their master. However, they did not have the luck for that to happen. In spite of that, He Xiao still became his disciple. As such, everyone else was jealous of him. Jian Wushuang brought He Xiao with him and walked randomly around the lineage of Star. During the walk, he gave some simple explanations regarding some of the places of opportunities as well as their uses. After that, he brought He Xiao with him and came to the cave that Hall Master Yuan lived in. Jian Wushuang, how did it go with the divine pond of absolute beginning? Hall Master Yuan questioned straight away when he saw Jian Wushuang. Originally it was very smooth. However, some changes occurred later on. Jian Wushuang gave a simple explanation as to what had happened to the divine pond of absolute beginning. Those dark powerhouses have actually set their eyes on the divine pond of absolute beginning? Hall Master Yuan's eyes squinted. What a pity. If you were given a longer period of time, your abilities would have risen greatly again. It's indeed a pity, Jian Wushuang laughed helplessly. This little kid beside you is? Hall Master Yuan glanced at He Xiu. This is a little kid who I came across during my journey. He is called He Xiu and he is now my registered disciple, Jian Wushuang said. Oh. Hall Master Yuan's eyes brightened. He knew about Jian Wushuang's abilities. For someone to catch the eyes of Jian Wushuang and be accepted as his disciple, even if he were just a registered disciple, he would definitely be not too bad. I am He Xiu. Greetings to Hall Master Yuan. He Xiu greeted him respectfully. This little kid's talents are not too bad and he has already comprehended a small bit of the power of destruction. As for abilities, he should be able to get into the top 50 of the Universe God ranking list, Jian Wushuang said. Top 50? Not bad, not bad. Hall Master Yuan was beaming with joy. It should be known that not just anyone could get into the Universe God ranking list. Although the lineage of Star had genius disciples in the Universe God ranking list, there were so few of them that it was pathetic. For example, when Jian Wushuang was still a Universe God, excluding Jian Wushuang himself, there were only 2 other geniuses who were in the Universe God ranking list in the lineage of Star. Moreover, the 2 people did not have very high rankings. As for He Xiu, he already possessed the fighting capabilities to get into the top 50 of the Universe God ranking list when he had only just entered the lineage of Star. After training for a period of time with the aid of the lineage of Star's resources, he would definitely be able to get into the top 10 of the Universe God ranking list. Although his future could not be compared to Jian Wushuang's, there was still a very high possibility of him becoming a top chaotic real god. Such a kind of genius was exactly what the lineage of Star had been looking for. The lineage of Star's rules are strict. Although you are Hall Master Wushuang's disciple, the rules cannot be changed. Hence, you are currently a normal disciple of the lineage of Star. In no time, there will be a battle to become a disciple of the Star Palace. Then if you were to perform well, you could become a Star Palace disciple and obtain even more resources, Hall Master Yuan said. I understand, He Xiu nodded his head. Alright, let me first get someone to bring you around. Hall Master Yuan instructed an elder to bring He Xiu around personally at once. After He Xiu left, only Jian Wushuang and Hall Master Yuan remained in the cave. Hall Master Yuan, this time around I obtained a special item from the outside. Can you help me take a look and tell me what it is? Jian Wushuang took out the jade sword. After Hall Master Yuan received the jade sword, he played with it in his hands for a while and his expression turned grave gradually. Jian Wushuang, where did you get this jade sword? Hall Master Yuan questioned. Upon seeing Hall Master Yuan's expression, Jian Wushuang understood that Hall Master Yuan already knew about the jade sword's origin. This jade sword was given to me by He Xiu. Jian Wushuang gave an explanation regarding how the jade sword came about, as well as his experience in the Yuming Mountain. Sir God Danhong? It's actually Sir God Danhong's cave? Hall Master Yuan was shocked. Hall Master Yuan, could it be that you do not know about the appearance of Sir God Danhong's cave? Jian Wushuang was baffled. Of course I don't know. Hall Master Yuan shook his head and laughed. Jian Wushuang, since you have joined the Sanctuary Alliance, you probably do not have a good understanding of some matters in the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance. The higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance refers to a group of almighties and there are social circles within them. For example, experts who travel alone have a social circle with other experts who travel alone. As for people like us who come from powerhouses, we have our own social circle as well. For Sir God Danhong's cave appearing in the Holy Kingdom of Real Wushu, which is outside the sanctuaries, perhaps some of the almighties in the Sanctuary Alliance have already known about it. However, they will not spread this piece of news intentionally. Moreover, Sir God Luin has definitely come by to talk to them. For you to be able to get this piece of news from Sir God Mad Dog, it's also thanks to luck. Jian Wushuang could not help laughing. Indeed, if not for Sir God Mad Dog, he would also not know about the Taiching ancient panaceas. Sir God Mad Dog was an expert who traveled alone. Moreover, he was extremely strange. Hence, there were many ways for him to obtain information. Then this jade sword is? Jian Wushuang looked at Hall Master Yuan. If I am not wrong, this jade sword should be one of the keepsakes of the Blood Cloud Palace, Hall Master Yuan said earnestly. Chapter 1726, The First Era. Chapter 1726, The First Era. Blood Cloud Palace? Jian Wushuang was confused. Blood Cloud Palace is a special place in the 3rd layer, Hall Master Yuan explained. In the 8th layer, the 6th, 7th and 8th layer are ordinary. The biggest threat derives from Star Demon Clan. However, besides the 3 layers, The remaining 5 layers are battlefields left behind from the first era or ancient times. Not only are there star demons but there are also various dangers. Where there's danger there are, of course, opportunities. Jian Wushuang was surprised. He knew the 8th layer to a certain extent. He also knew that besides the lair of Star Demon Clan, the 8 layers were huge battlefields. The battlefields were segregated into 2 kinds. One was a battlefield from ancient times, which was of a higher level, also most mysterious. Among the 8 layers, it was said that only the first layer was the true battlefield left from ancient times. As for the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th layers, they were battlefields left from the first era. The so-called first era was a new era after ancient times ended. Ancient God Emperor, who was supreme in ancient God tribe, was a super expert that was famous during the first era. However, the first era didn't last long because it was destroyed after a huge war. Then, the second era started, which was the eternal chaotic world that Jian Wushuang was currently in. Ancient times, first era, second era. 3 different eras but ancient times was the strongest. The first era is far behind compared to ancient times but it is also far stronger than the current eternal chaotic world, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. He knew that the universe that he was in, as they reproduced and as the time flew past, the overall power of cultivators was sliding down, and sliding down massively. In ancient times, it would have been prosperous. There were countless experts. Whichever one would be a supreme existence in the current era. There were even rumors in eternal chaotic world that said an emperor god was nothing back in ancient times. Jian Wushuang was once in the independent space. He had seen a painting of war in ancient times before Long Qi's master's coffin. The painting showed clearly how scary the experts in the war were. The first era, although it wasn't as strong as in ancient times, had also given birth to a 10-star ancient god superb expert like ancient god emperor. However, in eternal chaotic world also during the second era, forget about experts who could be compared favorably with those in ancient times, even experts like ancient god emperor didn't exist. The strongest in the current era was great emperor. It was widely acknowledged. It was because the ancient times and the first era were much stronger than the current era, the battlefield that they had left behind was so attractive to the experts in eternal chaotic world. Many almighties opted to wander in the 2nd to the 5th layer. It wasn't because they wanted to hunt the star demons but because they were going for the battlefield from the first era. They were going for the opportunities on the battlefield. In the 3rd layer there were many special places. There are 4 most famous places and Blood Cloud Palace is one of them. Blood Cloud Palace was left behind by a strong great emperor in the first era. The great emperor could be in the top 3 among all expert of great emperor level in the first era. In the current eternal chaotic world, there shouldn't be anyone who could match him. In the Blood Cloud Palace that he left behind, there are great opportunities. However, Blood Cloud Palace will only open once in a very long time. Every time it opens, only one with a designated token can enter, and that's what this jade sword is. It is said that the token for Blood Cloud Palace are 10 jade swords. There is a total of 6 unearthed jade swords and there are 4 that have yet to be found. I never expected Sir God Dan Hong, who passed away so long ago, to have had one of the jade swords and been hiding it. Hall Master Yuan sighed. Jian Wushuang heard and he was complimenting in silence. From Hall Master Yuan's story, Jian Wushuang could tell the value of the jade sword. It was a palace left behind by a top great emperor from the first era. The value should be unbelievably high if even a great emperor would be tempted. Although the jade sword was merely a token, it was priceless. If he were to take it out, it might stir up a crazy fight among all almighties. Jian Wushuang had only received such a treasure out of sheer luck. Hall Master Yuan, when will be the next time Blood Cloud Palace opens? Jian Wushuang asked. I happen to know but it's a pity as it is a long wait for you, Hall Master Yuan said. How long exactly? Jian Wushuang asked closely. 8 million years. Hall Master Yuan answered. Jian Wushuang was shocked. Ever since he was born and had started cultivation, it had only been tens of thousands of years. The next opening would be another 8 million years. Maybe to other almighties, 8 million years was nothing, as many almighties could live for very long, far longer than 8 million years. However, to Jian Wushuang it was really a long wait. Jian Wushuang, although you can't use the jade sword for now, it is priceless. Keep it carefully. Who knows when you might need to use it, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang nodded faintly. He then put the jade sword in his Chen Kuan ring and intentionally put it in an obvious spot. After Jian Wushuang left from Hall Master Yuan's place, he returned to his sword star. In the secret room, Jian Wushuang sat down. There was a jade bottle floating in front of his face. In the jade bottle there were elixirs that make one's mouth water. There was a total of 9. Jian Wushuang poured one Taiching ancient panacea out from the bottle. He then consumed it without hesitation. The moment the elixir entered his body, it instantly turned into billowing divine power that Jian Wushuang absorbed and transformed. The speed of absorption and transformation was shockingly fast. 3 days later, in Jian Wushuang's body, the 89th drop of ultimate divine power droplets precipitated and he expended less than half of the divine power in the Taiching ancient panacea. Taiching ancient panacea lives up to its name. This elixir is so efficient. Jian Wushuang was beaming with joy. With less than half the elixir, he had already precipitated the 89th drop of ultimate divine power droplet. If he were to absorb the Taiching ancient panacea fully, Jian Wushuang reckoned he should be able to precipitate the 90th ultimate divine power droplet. And he had a total of 9 Taiching ancient panaceas. Although it is said that it will be more difficult in the later stages of precipitating ultimate divine power droplets, I have 9 Taiching ancient panaceas. Even if I can't reach the extreme limit of my divine power, I reckon I shouldn't be too far away from it. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. With anticipation he continued to absorb the elixir. Chapter 1727, Made a Move. Chapter 1727, Made a Move. In a lofty black divine hall in a vast dark land. Under the protection of many guards which were covered in dim light, a black-robed figure knelt down respectfully and handed a token over. Lord, this is the assassination plan for Jian Wushuang. If the plan is carried out, the success rate will definitely be higher than 90%, the black-robed figure said respectfully. The lofty, dark divine hall became quiet for a long time. Finally, this plan will expose quite a number of things. However, if we are able to kill Jian Wushuang, it will be worth it. Go ahead. A gloomy and hoarse voice could be heard from all directions. It was obvious that the Lord had already approved of the plan. The black-robed figure was extremely delighted and he started to put the plan into effect. For the 8 layers, the lower the number of the layer, the more dangerous it was. For the first layer to the 5th layer, only almighties dared to travel there. As for the 6th layer, normally real gods traveled there. However, for real gods who dared to travel in the 6th layer, they would possess fighting capabilities that allowed them to get into the real god ranking list at the very least. Just then, at the core region of the 6th layer, an emaciated figure which was covered in a crimson robe was hidden in the void. Under the crimson hood, a pair of strange gray eyes were revealed and they were looking at the front. At the end of his sight there was a figure. It was a handsome man who wore a loose and long robe. He was moving forward slowly. His expression was cold and his eyes looked around the surroundings from time to time. He was extremely vigilant. However, although the handsome man was extremely vigilant, he did not notice the crimson-robed man who was behind him. That's Lei Chao of the lineage of Star. He is only ranked 27th in the real god ranking list. However, he still dares to travel in the core region of the 6th layer alone. He is really quite daring. However, it's a pity that you are someone from the lineage of Star. Moreover, your relationship with Jian Wushuang is not too bad. I can only say that I'm sorry. While wearing a cold smile, the crimson-robed man approached Lei Chao slowly. In a secret room in the sword star of the lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang had sat down with his legs crossed to train for 3 months. During the 3 months, he had completely absorbed the divine power in the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas. After absorbing all the divine power completely, Jian Wushuang had a puzzled expression. In his body, there were ultimate divine power water droplets floating about. By counting them, there was a total of 90 droplets of ultimate divine power. That's right. There were 99 droplets and he was only 1 droplet away from the 100 ultimate divine power water droplets needed to make a breakthrough to stage 3 ultimate real god. Moreover, for the last droplet, he had accumulated quite a great portion of it and only a small portion was left. It was just a little bit more. He was just 1 step away from precipitating the 100th droplet of ultimate divine power. In the end, it is still lacking slightly, Jian Wushuang murmured. Although he felt that it was a pity, he was not too concerned. After all, the effects of the 9 Taiching ancient panaceas had already exceeded his expectations. The current him only lacked a small portion of divine power. For this small portion of divine power he did not need any opportunities. By just relying on his own training or absorbing the demon cores that he had obtained back then, he would probably be able to make a breakthrough. 1,000 years. Jian Wushuang clenched both his fists tightly and his eyes glowed brilliantly. For the current him, by relying on the Hongjun golden swords as well as the many unique skills and secret skills of the ancient god, he could gain a firm foothold among the Sir gods and he was very close to the top. However, if he were able to take another step forward and achieve stage 3 ultimate real god, his divine power and body would achieve the level of an emperor god. By then, his abilities as a whole would rise greatly. I cannot rush. I must take it slow and go with the flow. Jian Wushuang laughed. After that, he walked out of the secret room. After walking out of the secret room, Jian Wushuang got the news that Elder Wu Liang had come. Moreover, he had also been waiting for him in the Sword Star for quite a few days. Within a lofty hall. Elder Wu Liang, Jian Wushuang wore a smile and walked toward Elder Wu Liang. Hall Master Wushuang, Elder Wu Liang was filled with respect. However, he also had mixed feelings. It should be known that thousands of years ago, he had invited Jian Wushuang to help them to hunt down real god Shiju. As for Jian Wushuang, after he had obtained the token of the Fairy Palace's legacy from real god Shiju, he joined the Sanctuary Alliance officially. After that, in a short thousands of years, he had risen greatly. To date, Jian Wushuang could compete against an almighty and he was one of the hall masters of the lineage of Star. Hence, Jian Wushuang was an existence that he looked up to. Elder Wu Liang, since you have come to look for me, is there something wrong? Jian Wushuang questioned while laughing. There's a matter and it is related to you, Elder Wu Liang said. Oh. Jian Wushuang's expression changed. It's like this. A few days ago, someone from the Parting Hatred Island sent a message over saying that a cultivator from the lineage of Star had been captured by them after killing their disciples. At present, she is being imprisoned in the Parting Hatred Island. After taking into account the fact that she is from the lineage of Star, they did not kill her on the spot. Instead, they wanted to have a discussion with the lineage of Star with regards to how to resolve the problem, Elder Wu Liang said. Just like that. Jian Wushuang had a perplexed expression. This should be a small matter that was too insignificant to mention. Hence, wouldn't it be insufficient to make him feel alarmed? Could it be that the cultivator is someone who I know? Jian Wushuang questioned. That's right. She's called Qiuyu and she is your maid, Elder Wu Liang said. Jian Wushuang's expression changed at once. Qiuyu. She was the housekeeper of the Sword Star. As Jian Wushuang had always been traveling outside, Qiuyu had been in charge of taking care of the Sword Star. Qiuyu had always been loyal to Jian Wushuang. As such, Jian Wushuang was not stingy and he had given her quite a lot of training resources. Moreover, not long ago, Qiuyu had gone out to train as she had encountered a bottleneck and to date, she had still not returned. However, who could have known that Qiuyu had actually been captured by the Parting Hatred Island? Elder Wu Liang, what is the background of the Parting Hatred Island? Jian Wushuang questioned. He had some understanding of some extremely powerful big powerhouses and big sects within the Sanctuary Alliance. However, he had never heard of the Parting Hatred Island. The Parting Hatred Island is a powerhouse within the Purple Moon Sanctuary. However, it is not considered a big powerhouse. Within the Parting Hatred Island, there is not even one almighty and it cannot be compared to the lineage of Star, Elder Wu Liang said. However, the Parting Hatred Island is not in the Star Land. Moreover, Qiuyu who has been captured is not a disciple of the lineage of Star. Instead, she is a normal cultivator. Thus, the Parting Hatred Island had the guts to capture her and they even sent a message over saying that they will give her a small punishment. Jian Wushuang understood. If it were a disciple of the lineage of Star or a genius disciple of the Star Palace, the Parting Hatred Island would not have the guts to punish him. However, Qiuyu was merely a maid and her position was considered extremely low in the lineage of Star. Therefore, the Parting Hatred Island naturally dared to punish her. Elder Wu Liang, did you find out why Qiuyu wanted to kill the disciples of the Parting Hatred Island? Jian Wushuang questioned. I have found out about it. It's because of the fact that a universe god in the Parting Hatred Island is her sworn enemy. She once had an older brother who died at the hands of that universe god in the Parting Hatred Island. As such, Qiuyu took action against them. However, it's a pity that she was captured by the experts of the Parting Hatred Island before she was able to kill the universe god, Elder Wu Liang said. Chapter 1728, Parting Hatred Island. Chapter 1728, Parting Hatred Island. I see, Jian Wushuang understood. This girl, why didn't she tell me she was in trouble? Qiu Yu was Jian Wushuang's maidservant and she had Jian Wushuang's communication token. During the time she was training, Jian Wushuang would send her messages to ask about her progress occasionally. Qiu Yu could totally send him a message about what happened or just use his name when she was caught in Parting Hatred Island. Then Parting Hatred Island wouldn't dare to do anything. However, Qiu Yu didn't. She had only said that she was from lineage of Star. Elder Wu Liang, please send a message to Parting Hatred Island. Tell them that lineage of Star will send an expert over to discuss it. Tell them to not touch a single strand of Qiu Yu's hair before the expert from lineage of Star arrive, Jian Wushuang said. All right. As long as we of lineage of Star command it, Parting Hatred Island won't have the guts to lay a finger on Qiu Yu, Elder Wu Liang smiled. Oh yeah, why don't I send a deacon elderly over to take care of this? Or I'll head over myself. It's all right, Jian Wushuang shook his head. I'll go. You'll go? Elder Wu Liang stared. Parting Hatred Island wasn't a great force within Purple Moon Sanctuary. They merely had two chaotic real gods. Lineage of Star could send any deacon elderly over and bring Qiu Yu back easily. Jian Wushuang was in such a distinguished position. Go and send the message. I'll depart now. Jian Wushuang didn't delay but departed in the direction of the Parting Hatred Island sect. On the other hand, Elder Wu Liang sent a message to Parting Hatred Island as instructed by Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang only took a few days' time to reach Parting Hatred Island via wormhole. This is Parting Hatred Island? Jian Wushuang overlooked a huge island covered by a formation. Even though it was only a second-grade force in the 10 sanctuaries, the sect looked quite dignified. Jian Wushuang's body turned illusionary and appeared before Parting Hatred Island's entrance. There were a few disciples guarding at the entrance. Please report to your higher-ups that Jian Wushuang from Lineage of Star is here to visit. Jian Wushuang smiled. Please hang on a moment. The registered disciples of Parting Hatred Island were only universe gods. They weren't experienced and they had never heard of Jian Wushuang's name. However, they should be able to tell that Jian Wushuang was a real god. As a real god came to visit personally, they couldn't behave sloppily and immediately went into the island to report. Jian Wushuang wasn't in a hurry and was waiting patiently at the entrance. With his power, he could totally barge into Parting Hatred Island and bring Qiu Yu away forcibly. The experts in Parting Hatred Island definitely wouldn't dare to say a word. After all, Jian Wushuang was from Lineage of Star and he had to keep Lineage of Star's reputation and appearance. Lineage of Star wasn't barbaric like Soaring Heaven King Palace. In Parting Hatred Island, an elderly in a red robe was casually walking around. Greetings, Elder, the registered disciple who walked past bowed politely at him. The elderly in a red robe nodded faintly and he was happy. Just then the disciple who came in to report sped past. When he saw the elderly in a red robe, he quickly moved over. Elder Dong, there's a Mr. outside who said that he is here to visit. The disciple was polite. Mr. The elderly in a red robe looked at the disciple. He is a real god and he said that he is from Lineage of Star. His name is Jian Wushuang, I think, the disciple said. Who you said? At first, the elderly in a red robe was very calm but his eyes suddenly shot open and his voice became excited. Are you sure you didn't hear wrongly? Is he really Jian Wushuang? Yes, I'm sure. The disciple was shocked but he replied determinedly. The elderly in a red robe immediately gasped a breath of cold air and muttered, there are countless cultivators in eternal chaotic world and there are also many named Jian Wushuang. However, a Jian Wushuang from Lineage of Star, there's only one. It's that monster? The elderly in a red robe looked terrified. Quick, follow me to welcome him. Yes, the disciples immediately nodded. Hold on, the elderly in a red robe suddenly paused. Wait here. Let me inform the island master. We will all go to welcome him together when island master and the rest come. The elderly in a red robe knew clearly how big of a figure Jian Wushuang was. He had the fighting power of an almighty. Such a super expert had come to visit Parting Hatred Island. It was simply bringing radiance to their humble sect. He of course couldn't welcome such a great expert alone. As the elderly in a red robe reported the news, the entire Parting Hatred Island shook. The master of Parting Hatred Island, including the 3 vice masters and a bunch of experts on the island, came to welcome him all together. Outside the island, Jian Wushuang saw a huge crowd walking over after waiting for a while. There were at least 20 to 30 of them and they were all real gods. The one leading them was, of course, the master of Parting Hatred Island. Such a big crowd, Jian Wushuang smiled, but he wasn't surprised. The crowd came before Jian Wushuang very quickly. Master of Parting Hatred Island greets Mr. Jian Wushuang. The Master of Parting Hatred Island bowed politely. The real gods behind him greeted and bowed at Jian Wushuang politely to show their respect. You are too courteous, Jian Wushuang smiled. Mr. Jian Wushuang, follow me into the island and we can talk, the Master of Parting Hatred Island invited. Jian Wushuang nodded. Then he entered Parting Hatred Island under the lead of the Master of Parting Hatred Island himself. As they walked in, the experts in Parting Hatred Island lifted their head to steal glances at Jian Wushuang. There was excitement and reverence in their eyes. As for Jian Wushuang, they had heard long ago that he had fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace in the 8th lair and they had suffered a great loss. He had even inflicted a severe injury on Sir God Qianlan from Soaring Heaven King Palace. Besides, during the battle, Jian Wushuang killed many top chaotic real gods from Soaring Heaven King Palace. To Parting Hatred Island, any top chaotic real god wasn't one that they could offend easily. However, Jian Wushuang had massacred top chaotic real gods like he was slaughtering chickens. Such a superb existence could destroy Parting Hatred Island countless times with a wave. Very soon, Jian Wushuang arrived in the discussion hall of Parting Hatred Island. At the highest position of the hall, he sat side by side with the Master of Parting Hatred Island. The Master of Parting Hatred Island might even be slightly lower. Mr. Jian Wushuang, I wonder what's the purpose of your visit to Parting Hatred Island? The Master of Parting Hatred Island asked politely. I really came for a purpose, Jian Wushuang smiled. Not long ago, there was someone from Lineage of Star that killed a few disciples of Parting Hatred Island. Now she is held by the experts of Parting Hatred Island and imprisoned in Parting Hatred Island. I came here today for her. Jian Wushuang expressed his intention straightforwardly. Chapter 1729 Jian Wushuang's Maid. Chapter 1729, Jian Wushuang's Maid. After knowing Jian Wushuang's objective for coming, the experts in the Parting Hatred Island had puzzled expressions. How can I not know that my Parting Hatred Island imprisoned someone from the Lineage of Star? Elder Li Yun, what's going on? The Parting Hatred Island master's eyes turned cold and he looked at the red-robed old man known as Li Yun. Although he was the island master, he had left most of the small matters in the Parting Hatred Island to Li Yun. For example, he indeed had no idea of the matter this time around. Island master, there is indeed such a matter. However, I did an investigation previously. That woman is merely a normal maid of the Lineage of Star. However, she has killed quite a number of the Parting Hatred Island's disciples. Hence, I got people to capture her and I also sent a message to the Lineage of Star to discuss this matter together. Li Yun broke out in a cold sweat. Previously, he had gotten the news that an expert from the Lineage of Star would come over to discuss about this matter. However, he totally did not expect that the person who would come from the Lineage of Star would be Jian Wushuang. That woman is a maid under me. Moreover, she is a maid who I like the most, Jian Wushuang said bluntly. Upon hearing that, the expressions of many experts of the Parting Hatred Island as well Li Yun changed greatly. They could not care less if it were a normal maid from the Lineage of Star. However, what if it were Jian Wushuang's maid? Moreover, if it was a maid who he liked the most, then it would be different. Lord Jian Wushuang. The Parting Hatred Island master stood up and said straight away, Lord, please forgive us for our crime. The Parting Hatred Island did not know about the relationship between that woman and the Lord in advance. If I'd known, even if I were able to pluck up even more courage, I would definitely not dare to make things difficult for her. Yes, my lord. Back then, when we captured that woman, she only said that she was a maid of the Lineage of Star and she did not reveal her relationship to you, Li Yun said immediately. For this matter, they indeed had no idea about it. It's all right. Jian Wushuang waved his hands, please bring her over first. Get down to it right away. The Parting Hatred Island master shot a glance toward Li Yun. Understood, Li Yun left immediately. Lord Jian Wushuang, for this matter? The Parting Hatred Island master still wanted to say something. Let's continue talking after she comes, Jian Wushuang said indifferently. Upon seeing that, the Parting Hatred Island master stopped speaking and he could only wait quietly at his position. Within the Parting Hatred Island, there was a lofty palace. The palace was the law enforcement hall of the Parting Hatred Island. For an expert or disciple who had committed a crime within the Parting Hatred Island or had caused some trouble outside, he would be sent to the law enforcement hall for his punishment. In a secret room in the inner part of the law enforcement hall, At the center of the secret room was a seal. Within the seal, a beautiful woman with a great figure was sitting down with her legs crossed. The beautiful woman was Jian Wushuang's maid, Qiu. At present, Qiu's expression was a bit pale and her aura was weak. She was in quite a miserable state. In front of the seal there was a chair. In the chair sat a young man who wore a luxurious long robe with a jade-like face and one of his legs was stuck over the other. As he looked at Qiu who was inside the seal, his eyes were filled with relish. I did not expect that piece of trash who died back then to have such a good little sister. Not only are you pretty, your talents are also not too bad. However, it's a pity that you are still a bit lacking. If you were a bit stronger, you might have been able to take revenge for that trashy brother of yours. Qiu's icy cold eyes were staring at the young man and she was filled with dissatisfaction. Just a bit more. Just a bit more and she would have been able to kill the person in front of her and gotten revenge for her brother. What? Are you dissatisfied? The young man laughed evilly. No matter how dissatisfied you are, it's useless. You will never have a chance again. Although you are someone from the lineage of Star, you are still a normal maid in the end. Since your position is too low, the lineage of Star will absolutely not care about your fate. The Parting Hatred Island has merely sent the lineage of Star a message to find a way out of their situation. After that, even if the Parting Hatred Island were to kill you, the lineage of Star would not say anything. Hence, you're dead. Moreover, I would kill you personally. You would look on as I stab my saber into your heart. There would not be any room for you to struggle. The young man's voice echoed within the secret room repeatedly. Upon hearing that, Qiu, who was in the seal, laughed coldly and her eyes were filled with disdain. Although she was currently captured alive by the Parting Hatred Island, she knew that the Parting Hatred Island would definitely not kill her. The reason being that her master was Jian Wushuang. With such an identity, the lineage of Star would absolutely not leave her alone. What? Even though you are already in such a situation, do you think that you will be able to continue living? The young man swept his eyes over Qiu with ridicule. However, just then, the big door of the secret room opened abruptly. After that, escorted by some disciples, the red-robed old man, Li Yun, walked inside anxiously. Elder Li Yun, why have you come? The young man stood up immediately and revealed a friendly smile. He was completely different from before. Upon seeing the young man in front, Li Yun became filled with anger and he swung his hand fiercely. Slap. A clear, melodious sound of a slap could be heard. The young man spit out a mouthful of blood at once and his body was sent flying ruthlessly. Damn little kid. Li Yun scolded with a low voice. He was too lazy to take another glance at that young man and he walked straight to the front of the seal. The flames of fury that Li Yun originally had became non-existent and he revealed a gentle smile. Miss Qiu, please leave with me. Where are we going? Qiu asked. To the big hall. Lord Jian Wushuang is waiting for you there, Li Yun said. Master? Qiu's body shook at once. Master has actually come himself? In no time, Li Yun got rid of the seal and showed Qiu to the big hall. At the same time, he looked at the astonished young man who was hiding at the corner of the wall again. Tao, follow us as well. This matter happened because of you. Now that you have caused trouble, don't think that we will let you off with just a slap. Before the young man Tang could even say anything, he was taken away by two disciples of the Parting Hatred Island forcibly and they headed to the big hall together. In the big hall, Jian Wushuang and the Parting Hatred Island master were sitting at its highest point and they were looking at Qiu, Tao and the few people who walked in. Master. Qiu greeted Jian Wushuang immediately and she had mixed feelings. She did not send a rescue message to Jian Wushuang at the start as she did not want to disturb him. After all, she was just a lowly maid. Moreover, she had merely provoked the Parting Hatred sect and it was a small matter that was too insignificant to be brought up. Hence, it could be resolved with the lineage of Star showing themselves. However, Qiu did not expect Jian Wushuang to come personally. As Jian Wushuang looked at Qiu, his eyes turned grave. It was not because of the fact that he had seen Qiu's injuries. Instead, it was because of the fact that he had seen the aura that she was emitting. Her aura had achieved the level of a real god. Chapter 1730, Ask for Help. Chapter 1730, Ask for Help. Breakthrough? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Previously, Qiu went out for training in order to break through and become real god. Then she really broke through. In actual fact, it was fortunate that Qiu broke through and became a real god and that Parting Hatred Island had scruples. If Chiao Yu were to only be a universe god and as she was only a maidservant, Parting Hatred Island would have killed her long ago. There's an elixir here. Eat it and rest up by the side. Jian Wushuang waved and passed her an elixir. The elixir wasn't cheap and it was for a Sir God to recover from injury. Chiao Yu took the elixir and consumed it immediately. Then she walked to the side obediently. There were immediately experts from Parting Hatred Island who gave her a seat. Master of Parting Hatred Island, how many of your disciples did my maidservant kill? Jian Wushuang asked casually. Li Yun, the master of Parting Hatred Island, looked at Li Yun. Island master, there were 6 disciples from Parting Hatred Island that had died at the hands of the lady. However, they were all ordinary disciples and they were all universe gods, Li Yun answered. 6 deaths, Jian Wushuang heard, and he took out a Qiankuan ring. I am not strict in discipline. There are treasures in Qiankuan ring. Consider it an apology to Parting Hatred Island. How could we accept your apology? The master of Parting Hatred Island stood up hastily but didn't dare to take the Qiankuan ring. I told you to take it. Just take it, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Yes, the master of Parting Hatred Island nodded politely as he accepted the Qiankuan ring. However, with no surprise. I, Jian Wushuang, have always been a clear-cut person. My maidservant killed your men in Parting Hatred Island and I should apologize. Now that I have apologized, we should talk about the resentment between my maidservant and the disciples of Parting Hatred Island. Jian Wushuang's face grew cold. Every expert of Parting Hatred Island at the scene was stunned. They knew that Jian Wushuang wouldn't just let it slip and take the initiative to apologize. They guessed it. Then Jian Wushuang wanted to clear the debt. Mr. Jian Wushuang, Mo Tao is here. You can go ahead and bring him along, the master of Parting Hatred Island said. The surrounding experts of Parting Hatred Island didn't hesitate either. At such a crucial moment, pushing their disciple just like that might not be appropriate. However, regardless of where one was in the world, they look at one's power. Jian Wushuang's power was proven. Forget about taking away one disciple who was only a universe god. Even if he were to kill 2 real gods on the spot, he definitely wouldn't dare to utter a single word. It's unnecessary for me to bring him straight away. It is merely a fight between the juniors. Lineage of Star isn't as barbaric as Soaring Heaven King Palace. Jian Wushuang smiled. How about this? As the 2 of them harbor deep hatred against one another, let them fight a life-and-death battle in Parting Hatred Island. Life-and-death battle? The experts in Parting Hatred Island were stunned. A life-and-death battle must be determined by life and death. As for who will be dead and who will be alive, that depends on their capabilities. Although Chiao Yu is my maidservant, I will have nothing to say, but I'd leave if she were to die at the hands of your disciple in Parting Hatred Island, Jian Wushuang said. I understand. Let's do as Mr. has suggested. The master of Parting Hatred Island nodded with a smile. However, Mo Tao, who was lying prostrate on the ground, was terrified. He shouted, No, Island Master. You can't let me fight a life-and-death battle with her. I am only a universe god, but she already broke through and became real god. This is unfair. This is an unfair battle. Mo Tao roared, but the surrounding crowd didn't do anything. They looked at him with pity. Unfair. Yes, the battle was really unfair. So what? In the world where was absolute fairness, everything was decided with power. Plus, Jian Wushuang was nice enough to give him a chance. If it was someone else, he would have been killed with one slap. The life-and-death battle started before long. Parting Hatred Island was at a disadvantageous position in the battle after all. So, the higher-up in Parting Hatred Island didn't breathe a word of it to anyone, nor did many disciples watch the battle. The end result was that naturally there was no suspense. Chiao Yu's injury recovered after consuming the elixir that Jian Wushuang had given. She took out about 70% of her power. As for Mo Tao, he was only an ordinary universe god in the 3rd heaven, so he was naturally killed easily. When the dispute was settled. Mr. Jian Wushuang, I have already arranged a banquet for you. Would you like to stay and have a drink? The master of Parting Hatred Island was polite. Banquet? Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. In front of the experts in Parting Hatred Island, she had killed the disciple of Parting Hatred Island. Not only did the experts on Parting Hatred Island not get angry, they were also courteous to him. They had even prepared a banquet for him. They obviously wanted to curry favor with him. Power? Jian Wushuang sighed. He knew clearly that it was because of his power. At first, Jian Wushuang didn't intend to reject him, but suddenly, Jian Wushuang, hurry up and come back. Something happened. Hall Master Yuan sent an urgent message. Jian Wushuang's face instantly grew grave. I appreciate Island Master's kindness, but I have other matters to attend to and I shall not stay back. Jian Wushuang said. Then he didn't bother with the experts on parting Hatred Island and he immediately took Qiuyu with him and left. They didn't talk much on the way and sped through the journey. Jian Wushuang arrived at Lineage of Star very soon. After he settled Qiuyu, Jian Wushuang immediately came to Hall Master Yuan's cave dwelling. He saw Hall Master Yuan as well as Hall Master Guxn. Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Guxn, what happened? Jian Wushuang asked. From the message that Hall Master Yuan sent, he could tell that there must be something major happening in Lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang, go through the message in this token. Hall Master Yuan passed Jian Wushuang a token. Jian Wushuang took it and briefly skimmed through it. Then his eyes shot wide open. The message in the token was a message asking for help. The message was sent by the one who had been wandering in the sixth lair all this while. Lei Chao. Back then, Lei Chao had guided Jian Wushuang to Lineage of Star personally. He had also taken care of Jian Wushuang when Jian Wushuang wasn't that powerful. Lei Chao was asking for help. Lei Chao, he is stuck in Buddhist Demon Sea? Jian Wushuang looked terrified. He was familiar with the 8th lair to a certain extent. He knew that there were places that were more dangerous and required more attention in every lair. Just like the dark regions in the 8th lair and the dark ravine in the 7th lair. He had looked into them carefully before. As for the 6th lair, he knew quite a bit about it. In the core of the 6th lair, even an expert on real god ranking list stood the possibility of passing when he wandered there. Besides, there were a few places that were full of danger that a real god definitely would die in if he barged in. Even to an almighty it was dangerous. Among the few places, the one with the greatest reputation was Buddhist Demon Sea. Chapter 1731, The Fish Has Taken the Bait. Chapter 1731, The Fish Has Taken the Bait. The Buddhist Demon Sea was a forbidden area to real gods. Even among almighties, normal almighties would not dare to go in there easily. It was said that even emperor gods could be killed in the deepest part of the Buddhist Demon Sea. How can that be? Lei Chao has been traveling the 6th lair for so long and it is not as if he does not know about the Buddhist Demon Sea. Why has he gone into the Buddhist Demon Sea? Jian Wushuang said while frowning. Under normal circumstances, Lei Chao would definitely not go to the Buddhist Demon Sea. However, Lei Chao is being chased by someone and he had no choice but to go in, Hall Master Yuan said. He is being chased by someone? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. Who is it? Old freak Sui Gu, an extremely powerful Sir God expert who is very ruthless, Hall Master Guxn said. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, old freak Sui Gu fought with the Lineage of Star head-on. At that time, Hall Master Shi Yun and I teamed up to go after him and he almost died by our hands. Ever since that battle, this old bastard remained silent and laid low and he never appeared again. However, who could expect that when he reappeared again, it would actually be in the 6th lair. Moreover, he came across Lei Chao by coincidence. If not for Lei Chao using the secret skill of Star Palace and the secret skill of Dragon Blood to the best of his abilities, there would probably not be an opportunity for him to escape into the Buddhist Demon Sea. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned grave. He had never heard of the old freak Sui Gu before. However, at that time, it was highly possible that Lei Chao had escaped into the Buddhist Demon Sea under his compulsion. After all, some Sir Gods with weaker abilities would travel deep inside the 6th lair and old freak Sui Gu was probably one of them. Moreover, it just so happened that he had a huge grudge against the Lineage of Star. The Buddhist Demon Sea is unusually dangerous. With Lei Chao's abilities, under a condition where he has lost his 2 trump cards, secret skill of Star Palace and secret skill of Dragon Blood, there is a very low possibility of him surviving. However, fortunately, the space and time of the Buddhist Demon Sea are not completely separated from the outside world. Hence, he can ask for help and the Lineage of Star can still make it in time to save him, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief. It was lucky that Lei Chao was not killed by old freak Sui Gu straight away. Although he had entered the Buddhist Demon Sea, there was still a glimmer of hope for him. Lei Chao is an expert of the Lineage of Star and he has contributed greatly to the Lineage of Star. Since there is a glimmer of hope, the Lineage of Star will definitely do its best to save him. However, it's a pity that the Palace Master has secluded himself in training for the past few years as he is preparing for something and he cannot show himself. Presently, Hall Master Shi Yun is traveling deep inside the 5th lair and he is unable to come out at such short notice. Thus, I can only get the two of you to go there, Hallmaster Yuan said. Leave it to us, Hallmaster Guexen nodded her head. Back then Lei Chao took very good care of me. Since something bad has happened to him now, I will do my best to rescue him, Jian Wushuang said earnestly. Go ahead. Remember to be extremely careful, Hallmaster Yuan warned. Jian Wushuang and Hallmaster Guexen looked at each other. After that, both of them set off immediately. The two of them did not lose any time. After entering the sixth lair, they traveled speedily and arrived outside the Buddhist Demon Sea in the shortest possible time. This is the Buddhist Demon Sea? Jian Wushuang was looking at a mysterious sea area which was completely shrouded in black and dense fog in front of him. Even though he had never entered the sea area, by just looking from the outside, Jian Wushuang felt terrified. Let's go in, Hallmaster Guexen said. Jian Wushuang did not hesitate and he entered the sea area with Hallmaster Guexen right away. After entering the sea area, Jian Wushuang felt a strong corrosive power rushing toward him immediately. The corrosive power came from the black, dense fog which filled the air. What a strong corrosive power! Jian Wushuang revealed a shocked expression. He could feel how unreasonable the corrosive power was. Under such a corrosive power, a normal chaotic real god would probably not last very long and they would die. Even top chaotic real gods would probably be unable to last for a long period of time. Although Lei Chao was an expert of the real god ranking list who ranked above 20, he would probably die in at most 100 years' time if he were to continue staying in the Buddhist Demon Sea. Jian Wushuang, as you are only a real god, are you able to withstand this corrosive power? Hallmaster Guexen questioned. It would not be a problem for 1,000 years. However, if it were any longer than that, it would be hard to say, Jian Wushuang said. Then let's make the best use of our time, Hallmaster Guexen said. The two of them flew toward the front immediately. While flying, Jian Wushuang took out his transmission token. Lei Chao, Hallmaster Guexen and I have arrived in the Buddhist Demon Sea. How are you now? Jian Wushuang questioned. Jian Wushuang, I'm sorry. Back then, I was unable to hurry back to participate in the banquet when you took on the role of a hall master. But now, I need you to come here to rescue me. Lei Chao was filled with regret. Let's not talk about that. How is your current situation? Roughly which direction are you in and how long can you last? Jian Wushuang asked quickly. I was chased down by old freak Sui Gu and I had no choice but to escape into the Buddhist Demon Sea. However, old freak Sui Gu also followed me in and I could only continue to run. Since I was running away madly, I also had no idea where exactly I was. I only know that the place that I am at is a triangular island that is extremely huge, Lei Chao said. A gigantic and triangular island? Jian Wushuang's eyes squinted and he looked at Hallmaster Guexen who was beside him. Hallmaster Guexen, do you know that the triangular island existed? I have no idea. Hallmaster Guexen shook her head. The Buddhist Demon Sea is not normal and among the whole Sanctuary Alliance, not many people have traveled inside before. Moreover, the terrain here is extremely peculiar and probably no one knows where that triangular island is. This is going to be troublesome. Jian Wushuang's expression turned ugly. This was the most troublesome. Both Hallmaster Guexen and him knew that Lei Chao was trapped in the Buddhist Demon Sea. They also knew that he was in a triangular island. However, since the Buddhist Demon Sea was so huge, who knew where the triangular island was? Moreover, they were also not certain of its direction. There were also no authenticating objects with them. Hence, they could only rely on luck to find Lei Chao. The environment of the Buddhist Demon Sea is peculiar. Although Lei Chao did not say much, I predict that he will probably be unable to last for long. Hence, we need to find him in the shortest possible time. Therefore, Hallmaster Guexen, shall we split up? Jian Wushuang suggested. Split up. Hallmaster Guexen frowned. However, she still nodded her head. Indeed, if the two of us were to split up, there would be a higher chance of us finding him. However, it would be more dangerous. Jian Wushuang, you really have to be careful. You too. Jian Wushuang looked at Hallmaster Guexen. After that, the both of them split up inside the Buddhist Demon Sea right away. Although they had split up, they were in contact with each other at all times. At the same time as Jian Wushuang and Hallmaster Guexen entered the Buddhist Demon Sea, in the inner part of the Buddhist Demon Sea, a figure who was covered in a crimson robe revealed a pair of strange, gray eyes. Hee, the fish has taken the bait. Chapter 1732 Triangle Island. Chapter 1732 Triangle Island. Buddhist Demon Sea, at hidden void where 4 figures in black robes stood side by side. There was a deep voice that was heard under the black robe. Just got an update. Jian Wushuang has already entered Buddhist Demon Sea and Hall Master Gu Xan from Lineage of Star came in too, but they parted ways. Someone will take care of Hall Master Gu Xan, we can ignore her. Our target is the one and only Jian Wushuang. In order to kill Jian Wushuang, Acheron Palace is liberal with money. The 4 of us normally take action alone, but they gathered us here together. Plus, they are only launching the first of the 4 killer attacks now. From what I can see, the higher-ups look too highly upon Jian Wushuang. Although he is really talented, his power is barely at the level of a Sir God's. It is unnecessary to make such a great troop to kill him. 4 killer attacks, and that is only the first. He might not be able to dodge, or there might even not be necessary for the first attack. With the existence of natural danger in Buddhist Demon Sea itself, it will be sufficient to kill Jian Wushuang. The 4 of us arranged to only be involved in the 3rd attacks and above. I reckon we might not stand a chance to launch an attack. The 4 of them chatted casually. As they chatted, they were absolutely confident. Acheron Palace wouldn't take action. If they did, the other party would stand almost no chance at all to flee. Then Acheron Palace put great attention on Jian Wushuang and planned it meticulously. They had even prepared 4 killer attacks. Jian Wushuang was doomed. In the boundless dark sea, Jian Wushuang continued to plunge forward slowly as he looked around while he kept his guard up. Buddhist Demon Sea is extremely dangerous to Sir Gods. Although Lei Chao was chased after by old monster Sui Gu and he ran to Buddhist Demon Sea helplessly, he definitely won't be too far in. He should still be at the border of Buddhist Demon Sea, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Buddhist Demon Sea, there was a difference between open sea and inland sea. Inland sea was more dangerous compared to open sea. What I can do now is search along the open sea and hope that I can find him, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. As long as he was on the open sea, Jian Wushuang stood a chance to save Lei Chao. If Lei Chao were to be at the inland sea, Jian Wushuang had no way at all. Jian Wushuang continued to plunge as he spread his soul power. However, his soul power was greatly restricted in Buddhist Demon Sea and the coverage was less than 1/5 of his performance during his peak. Hence, the difficulty of searching had increased tremendously. 10 days after entering Buddhist Demon Sea. Swoosh! Jian Wushuang's body suddenly stopped. He saw a crimson figure in the sea region before him in his sights. It was the size of a human body with a pair of hands and legs. Its skin was crimson and there was an eye and a big mouth on its head. It was a star demon that could only be found in the 8th layer. However, the star demon in front of him and was obviously much stronger than any star demons that Jian Wushuang had ever seen. On its head there were 4 horns. 4-horned star demon. A star demon comparable to a human Sir God. As Jian Wushuang saw the star demon, its crimson eye looked at Jian Wushuang directly. Human? With boundless murderous intention in the voice of the star demon, it instantly charged forward in the next moment. Then there was a great rage that soared up. Jian Wushuang's face grew solemn. He knew that there were star demons in Buddhist Demon Sea and the power of the star demons were extremely strong overall. Such 4-horned star demon was common. Wow! The crimson light twinkled. Then the 4-horned star demon suddenly appeared before Jian Wushuang. It waved its palm and clawed the sky. Not only the void was torn open, the dark sea underneath was greatly torn as well. Such intense speed, Jian Wushuang was surprised and he quickly retreated. The sharp claw came to nothing but it stirred up a violent storm and roaring waves in the sea below. Humph! Jian Wushuang humphed coldly, then the 2 Hongjun golden swords appeared in front of him simultaneously and turned into 2 rays of golden flowing light that burst out. Swoosh! Swoosh! The ear-piercing, air-splitting noise spread. The 2 Hongjun golden swords appeared before the 4-horned star demon and instantly hit the 4-horned star demon. The Hongjun golden swords hit it brutally while 4-horned star demon swung its pair of arms with its all. Bang! 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 After the few clashes that only continued for 5 times, one of the 2 Hongjun golden swords pierced the 4-horned star demon's head at the 6th hit. Jian Wushuang took a leap and came in front of the 4-horned star demon. He waved and collected the demon core into his Chen Kuan ring. The 4-horned star demon should have just transformed not too long ago. Its power is comparable to the lowest level of Sir God or maybe even lower. With my current power, it is quite easy to kill him, Jian Wushuang muttered. He wasn't like before. Among Sir Gods he was definitely one of the stronger experts. However, the four-horned star demons had reminded Jian Wushuang to be more cautious. The time flew past and 3 years passed in the blink on an eye. For 3 years, Jian Wushuang had continued to keep in contact with Lei Chao and Hall Master Gu Xin, but he had yet to find the triangle island that Lei Chao was at. They had no choice. Buddhist Demon Sea was extremely huge and merely the open sea itself was spacious. A Sir God might not be able to search through the entire region in 1,000 years. Jian Wushuang and Hall Master Gu Xin knew the rough direction which Lei Chao had entered Buddhist Demon Sea in and they got to minimize their search scope. However, it was still not easy to look for Lei Chao. In the boundless dark sea, Jian Wushuang was suddenly attracted by the miniature island in front of him. It was an ordinary island and it wasn't huge. In the 3 years of Jian Wushuang's search in Buddhist Demon Sea, he couldn't keep count of how many similar islands he had passed by. Any island that he had passed before didn't catch his attention, only this did. That was because Jian Wushuang saw a big hole in the middle of the island. The big hole was obviously caused by a hit of divine power, and most importantly, the time that it was formed wasn't too far back. Buddhist Demon Sea, there is hardly anyone that comes in. It is even more impossible for there to be a battle. The hole on the island was definitely made when old monster Sui Gu chased after Lei Chao. Lei Chao is definitely near the island. Jian Wushuang was thrilled. He then started to search thoroughly near the island. The search continued for another 11 years. Finally, there was an extremely huge triangle island that appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Found it. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. Chapter 1733 Between Life and Death. Chapter 1733 Between Life and Death. In the vast, dark sea area, Jian Wushuang was floating amidst the dark, dense fog and he was looking down at the gigantic triangular island in front of him. His expression turned grave slowly. He could see that the triangular island was engulfed by a dark storm. Within the dark storm, gusts of wind were blowing about like sharp blades and the void was cut open like paper. Jian Wushuang also felt great danger from the dark storm. He then took out his token and sent a message to Lei Chao to ask him some questions. Lei Chao, I have already arrived at a triangular island. This island is engulfed in a dark storm. Are you inside this island? That's right. It's that place. Lei Chao replied immediately, I have been completely trapped by the dark storm and I dare not move about randomly. It's alright if I'm correct. Please wait inside. I will go in and find you. After speaking, Jian Wushuang approached the triangular island slowly. This dark storm. As Jian Wushuang looked at the dark storm in front of him, he did not dare to underestimate the heartless sharp blades which were blowing about in the slightest. All of a sudden, Jian Wushuang flipped his hands and a purple saber appeared in his hands. After that, he tossed the purple saber into the dark storm in front of him. A dark, sharp blade then headed to the purple saber and sliced it into fine powder instantly. What a strong power. That saber is a top universe god-level chaos unique treasure. However, it was destroyed instantly. With such frightening dark wind blades, although my body is strong, if I were to be caught in between a few dark wind blades at the same time, I would probably not end up in a good state, Jian Wushuang exclaimed in admiration. It was no wonder that Lei Chao was trapped within the dark storm and that he dared not walk around randomly. After all, the dark storm also posed a great threat to Almighties. However, although it was dangerous, in order to bring Lei Chao out, Jian Wushuang still walked into the dark storm. At a hidden void which was deep inside the dark storm, there were 4 black-robed figures. Jian Wushuang has come. Since he has come, he shall not think of leaving this place alive. It's about time for Mo Ying to make a move. He's a top genius. However, it's a pity that he is about to die. The 4 black-robed figures were gasping at their location. However, the 4 faces under the black robes were not filled with sympathy at all. Instead, they were filled with cruelty and madness. In the dark storm, Jian Wushuang's right hand was holding his blood mountain sword and he was walking forward slowly. His eyes were filled with vigilance. Puff. All of a sudden, a sound that sounded like the void being ripped open could be heard. Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank and he swung the sword in his hands abruptly. A dark wind blade was repelled by Jian Wushuang's blood mountain sword head-on. Jian Wushuang did not stop moving and he continued to walk forward. The dark storm was still considered very stable and Jian Wushuang only needed to pay attention to the dark wind blades that appeared from his surroundings. As long as the dark wind blades were unable to touch him, he would not be in any danger. I wonder which part of the storm Lei Chao will be in, Jian Wushuang muttered. The dark storm had completely prevented him from using his soul power to check out the area. Hence, he did not know Lei Chao's current location and he could only search slowly. However, what Jian Wushuang did not know was that at the same time, within the dark storm, a ghost-like figure was hidden not too far away from his back. The black-robed figure was like a ghost. Ever since Jian Wushuang had entered the dark storm, he had been following Jian Wushuang closely. However, from the start to the end, Jian Wushuang did not notice his existence. Under the black robe, a pair of dark green eyes which had the will-o'-the-wisp dancing about them were staring at Jian Wushuang, who was in front persistently. She had also suppressed the aura in her body to its maximum and she was just like the air. She was waiting. She was waiting for the best opportunity to strike. Puff, puff, puff. All of a sudden, 3 soft sounds which broke the silence in the air could be heard from his surroundings. Jian Wushuang noticed them instantly and with a wave of his hands, 3 sword essence struck the 3 dark wind blades which were heading toward him with lightning speed. The 3 dark wind blades were dispersed instantly. However, at that moment, the time is now. The eyes of the black-robed figure who had been following Jian Wushuang closely while hiding herself extremely well glowed with a shrill light and she floated over like a ghost. Her speed was too fast. When Jian Wushuang had only just swung his sword to get rid of the 3 dark wind blades which approached him, the ghost-like figure had already appeared behind him. At the same time, a cold dagger appeared in her hands and the dagger headed toward Jian Wushuang's head abruptly. It was a speed that was faster than all the speeds in the universe. At that moment, the space and time seemed to have completely stopped. Only the extremely cold dagger remained in the whole universe. It was too fast. The person who attacked was definitely a top expert who was proficient in assassination. Be it the opportunity to strike, the way of attacking or speed, she was perfect in all of them. Although Jian Wushuang had been vigilant throughout, up until the moment that the ghost-like figure had appeared behind him and even attacked with her dagger, Jian Wushuang had still not reacted to it. Jian Wushuang, be careful, a cry which sounded like thunder echoed in Jian Wushuang's mind fiercely. Jian Wushuang's body trembled and he was terrified. At that moment, all the pores on his body expanded quickly and a special feeling appeared in Jian Wushuang's mind. Such a feeling was the feeling of life and death. He had felt the frightening feeling of danger which came from behind him. Although the frightening feeling of danger was not unprecedented, from the time that Jian Wushuang started training to present, he had felt it no more than 2 times. Jian Wushuang even had an illusion that he was about to die. He did his best to move his body in order to avoid the deadly blow behind him. Faster, faster. Even faster, even faster. Jian Wushuang was roaring crazily in his mind and he did his best to move himself as much as possible. After all, the more he moved, the higher the chance of him surviving. Die. At that moment, the ghost-like figure who launched a surprise attack abruptly did not hide herself any longer. Her shocking murderous intent had completely locked on to Jian Wushuang and the dagger in her hands which was emitting an infinite amount of coldness was getting closer and closer to Jian Wushuang's head. However, at that moment, all of a sudden, a gigantic tentacle came out from Jian Wushuang's back fiercely and it struck the dagger with lightning speed straight away. As the dagger contained frightening power, it smashed the tentacle into pieces instantly. Moreover, it continued to head toward Jian Wushuang without any decrease in power. However, with the tentacle blocking for just an instant, Jian Wushuang had just managed to move his body. Swish! The dagger which contained an infinite amount of murderous intent brushed past Jian Wushuang's head and the cold light which the dagger was emitting left a wound on Jian Wushuang's cheek, causing blood to flow out from it. Piss off! Jian Wushuang gave a loud cry and the blood mountain sword in his hands released a shocking amount of power. It then attacked furiously like a huge mountain which was hundreds of millions Jian heavy. Chapter 1734, Coming After Me. Chapter 1734, Coming After Me. Retreat. The spiritual figure was very determined. He didn't hit his target and he immediately retreated. He was a killer hidden in the dark, an assassin. He wasn't used to fighting head-on. Want to run? There was a billowing murderous intention in Jian Wushuang's eyes. After the stroke failed to hit, there were immediately 2 rays of resplendent golden light that burst out. Hongjun golden swords were like comets. They flew through the void and appeared behind the spiritual figure, then instantly pierced the body of the spiritual figure. However, it didn't touch any substantial form when it pierced and the spiritual figure vanished into thin air. Jian Wushuang looked around him and swept out his soul power but he couldn't notice anyone. Such a brilliant hiding skill and assassination skill. Jian Wushuang clenched his hand as his face went solemn. It was obvious that the spiritual figure had been lurking behind him, but his soul power didn't notice him at all. His hiding skill was definitely very impressive. The assassination skill then really shocked Jian Wushuang. Ever since his cultivation, he had never seen such a terrifying assassination skill. Not only did he grasp the perfect timing but also the dagger. The dagger was too terrifying. King of Venomous Worms, luckily you took action in time. Otherwise, Jian Wushuang had a lingering fear. He knew clearly that King of Venomous Worms had reminded him just in time, and the tentacle that extended behind his back simultaneously was from King of Venomous Worms as well. If it wasn't because of the tentacle that delayed for a moment, Jian Wushuang wouldn't be able to dodge the attack of the dagger in time. I just happened to wake up. Luckily it was in time, King of Venomous Worms said in Jian Wushuang's head. He sighed with emotion as he spoke. The earlier scene had been too dangerous. If King of Venomous Worms had woken up any later, Jian Wushuang would have died. Oh yeah, what was going on earlier? I could tell that he should be an almighty. Jian Wushuang, since when did you qualify for an almighty to assassinate you? King of Venomous Worms asked in surprise. When King of Venomous Worms had been asleep, Jian Wushuang had broken through and become a real god in ancient god sanctuary. It wasn't long since then, but when he woke up again, he had seen an almighty trying to kill Jian Wushuang. What an honor for an almighty to assassinate him. During the time when you slept, I received some opportunities and my power increased tremendously. Now I have the fighting power of an almighty, Jian Wushuang said. Fighting power of an almighty? King of Venomous Worms was thrilled in excitement. Let's not talk about this first. My current situation is abnormal, Jian Wushuang said in a deep voice. King of Venomous Worms had noticed the surrounding void and the terrifying dark storm. In addition to the ambush by the Almighty earlier, Jian Wushuang was obviously in a bad situation. What's going on? King of Venomous Worms asked. What happened was, Jian Wushuang briefly told it the ins and outs of the story. Previously, I had thought it was only an accident that Lei Chao had gotten trapped in Buddhist Demon Sea. But from what it seems now, I'm afraid that isn't so. Jian Wushuang looked solemn. He wasn't stupid. On the contrary, he had been through tough experiences and struggled to climb up in the ocean of blood. When he had found out the news that Lei Chao was trapped in Buddhist Demon Sea, Jian Wushuang had found it strange, but he didn't bother much. But then, after the assassination, Jian Wushuang finally understood. He was almost certain that it wasn't an accident but a strategy, meticulously plotted. And the person who framed him definitely wasn't Lei Chao. He was 80% only bait. Their true target was actually him. These people are specially coming after me. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands. With such a meticulous plot, they could arrange an almighty for an assassination. On top of that, the almighty's assassination skill was so terrifying. It was obvious that he was trying to kill him. Jian Wushuang, when I was in a deep sleep, which experts did you offend? The enemy's strategy isn't ordinary. King of Venomous Worms' voice grew serious. In eternal chaotic world, there's only a great force that crossed paths with me and wanted me dead. It is Soaring Heaven King Palace. However, although Soaring Heaven King Palace is strong, it is impossible for them to be so liberal with their funds, nor is it possible for them to scheme against me in Buddhist Demon Sea. They don't have the capability, Jian Wushuang muttered. Although Soaring Heaven King Palace was strong, they didn't have that many almighties. Plus, everyone was aware of the danger in Buddhist Demon Sea. If Soaring Heaven King Palace were to scheme against Jian Wushuang, they wouldn't opt to within Buddhist Demon Sea. The risk was too high. As it wasn't Soaring Heaven King Palace, the one who had the ability and had the intention to do so would be the hidden force of eternal chaotic world. Acheron Palace. What happened today is 99% likely to be Acheron Palace's doing. Jian Wushuang's face grew distressed. Acheron Palace was known for its bad name. Jian Wushuang harbored scruples about Acheron Palace as well. Acheron Palace wouldn't take action hastily. If they did, it would be almost impossible for them to miss the target. Then, Acheron Palace had launched an attack at him, and it had been meticulously planned. They even used Lei Chao as the bait to lure him to Buddhist Demon Sea. Then he was already in the trap that Acheron Palace set up. He was in a very bad place. King of Venomous Worms, as you completed your transformation and woke up, you should be able to help me, right? Jian Wushuang asked. Of course, a Plenilune's power is determined by the ancient god that it lives off. Due to your influence, My change is drastic and my attack power can be put to use as well, King of Venomous Worms said. That's great. Jian Wushuang fixed his gaze. As Acheron Palace took action against me, they definitely did thorough research on me. They definitely know some of my trump cards and they will have prepared accordingly. However, there are some trump cards that I have never shown anyone. These trump cards will be a crucial part of how I can escape this disaster. King of Venomous Worms, you are one of the trump cards I have now too. The two of us should fight against the people from Acheron Palace together. It's my honor, King of Venomous Worms replied. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath and his gaze became sharp. He knew that he had fallen into the trap that Acheron Palace had plotted against him. As he was already there, it would be impossible for him to return by the same route. Even if he were to inform Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xian about his situation, Hall Master Gu Xian was quite far away from the Triangle Island that he was on. He couldn't be there in time to back him up on such short notice. Hall Master Yuan couldn't help either. He had no choice. He could only fight head-on with the people from Acheron Palace. He could only rely on himself. As for if it was life or death, that depended on his capability. Chapter 1735, Furious. Chapter 1735, Furious. At the hidden void in the dark storm. Swish. Ghost-like black-robed figures appeared silently. Hee emoing, I didn't think that you would fail. Moreover, your target is merely a real god. The four black-robed men who were originally at that piece of void looked over and their eyes were filled with relish. Humph, if all of you have the talent, you can try assassinating him. I guarantee that the moment any of you approaches him, you will be discovered by him, Emoing said coldly. Haha, the four of us are not assassins and we are not proficient in assassination. What we are proficient in is head-on extermination. Just look. Later on, you will know how Jian Wushuang was killed by the four of us, one of the black-robed men sneered. There's no rush. It's still not the time for the four of us to strike. Let's wait a while longer. The second wave of killing has not begun yet, another black-robed man said. I will be watching. The few of them waited at their location quietly. Within the dark storm, Jian Wushuang was walking forward slowly. After knowing that the Acheron Palace was trying to assassinate him this time around, he became even more vigilant to the point that his nerves became extremely tight. Swish, swish. Occasionally, some dark wind blades would rush toward him, but all of them would be dispersed by Jian Wushuang easily. To the current him, the dark wind blades were not considered a threat. The real threat was the danger that was hidden in the darkness. King of Venomous Worms, is the move that you unleashed really effective? Jian Wushuang was chatting with the King of Venomous Worms in his mind. Don't worry. This is the secret skill that only my Plenilune clan possesses. As long as someone approaches you, I will notice it straight away. However, the secret skill only covers a range of 1,000 meters, the King of Venomous Worms said. 1,000 meters is not too bad, Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The assassination moments ago had caused him to be terrified and at that moment he was still extremely fearful. If that Almighty from before were to find another opportunity to attack him, Jian Wushuang had absolutely no confidence that he could avoid it again. However, the King of Venomous Worms had unleashed a secret skill which caused a special energy to cover 1,000-meter range around him. If such a kind of Almighty were to launch a surprise attack on him again, at the very least, he would have some time to prepare. At that moment, all of a sudden Jian Wushuang raised his head. He had already seen a figure who was sitting on the ground with his legs crossed at the end of his line of vision. Lei Chao. Jian Wushuang revealed a delighted expression and he walked over to the figure immediately. Jian Wushuang. Lei Chao, who had been sitting on the ground and did not dare to move about, also saw the arrival of Jian Wushuang and he revealed a delighted expression at once. In no time the two of them joined up with each other. Jian Wushuang, I did not expect you to really be able to find me. Lei Chao's eyes were filled with disbelief. I have exerted a great amount of effort to find you, Jian Wushuang laughed. However, his expression turned grave quickly. Lei Chao, the matter this time around is not normal. Oh. Lei Chao was stunned. Jian Wushuang gave a simple explanation of the ambush that he had encountered in the dark storm, as well as his own judgment. Damn it. Lei Chao clenched both his fists tightly and his expression became unusually ugly. I have always felt that it was strange. When old freak Suigu was chasing me, he could have actually killed me. However, he did not do so. Back then, I still thought that he simply did not take advantage of the opportunity. However, looking at it now. Jian Wushuang, I'm sorry. I implicated you, Lei Chao said apologetically. No, the Acheron Palace's target is me and they are trying to get rid of me. In actual fact, I am the one who got you involved in this, Jian Wushuang said. Indeed. If not for Jian Wushuang, the Acheron Palace would not put in so much effort and pay so much price to take action against Lei Chao. Moreover, Lei Chao would also not go into the Buddhist demon sea and get himself in danger. Let's not talk about this now. We have to quickly think of a way to get out of here, Lei Chao said. All right, Jian Wushuang nodded his head and he had a grave expression. All of a sudden. Jian Wushuang, someone has come, the king of venomous worms' voice could be heard abruptly. Jian Wushuang realized instantly that a ghost-like figure had appeared behind him again. Moreover, it was that same dagger which was emitting a shocking amount of cold light. The dagger moved with lightning speed and it headed toward Jian Wushuang's head again. Humph. Jian Wushuang gave a cold hum. This time around he had taken precautions since a long time ago. He attacked straight away by swinging the Blood Mountain sword in his hands, which were filled with an infinite amount of sword essence. Clang. The Blood Mountain sword and the dagger clashed head-on and a violent sound of blows being exchanged could be heard. The ghost-like figure who had launched a surprise on Jian Wushuang then retreated abruptly. Lei Chao, be careful. Jian Wushuang did not forget to remind Lei Chao. However, when he looked at Lei Chao again, his expression changed fiercely. Lei Chao had an extremely hideous face. His eyes, which were looking at Jian Wushuang, were also filled with a shocking amount of murderous intent. He had already extended his palms and two flittering lights headed toward Jian Wushuang. This is. As Jian Wushuang looked at the two flittering lights which were shot over, he recognized them. They were two god-destroying pearls. Back then, His Highness Mu Hong had almost destroyed the divine pond of Absolute beginning by relying on the god-destroying pearl. Jian Wushuang was certain about the power of the god-destroying pearl. One of them was already extremely frightening. With two of them they definitely had the ability to kill a Sir God. However, at that moment, the two god-destroying pearls were thrown over from Lei Chao's hands and it was very clear it was thrown toward him. Ancient God's secret skill, 8 divine mountains. With a cry from Jian Wushuang, bang, 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 bang. Loud sounds could be heard repeatedly and a 100,000-foot tall golden divine mountains appeared out of thin air in front of Jian Wushuang again and again. A total of 8 golden divine mountains acted as a shield in front of Jian Wushuang. Explode! Lei Chao bellowed loudly and the two god-destroying pearls exploded instantly. Boom! Boom! 2 deafening booms could be heard abruptly. The frightening power also spread across all directions and destroyed everything. The black storm, which was originally considered stable, became unusually violent due to the power generated from the attack. A great number of dark wind blades were blown about continuously and this caused the void to collapse crazily. As for the 8 lofty golden divine mountains in front of Jian Wushuang, 7 of them had already collapsed and even the 8th divine mountain was shaky and about to collapse. However, it still blocked the attack from the 2 god-destroying pearls forcefully in the end. Although the power was blocked, Jian Wushuang was not delighted in the slightest. Instead he looked extremely glum. Lei Chao. Why? How is this possible? Jian Wushuang was roaring and he was filled with anger. Lei Chao was an expert who was well respected by the people in the lineage of Star. He was a proud person and he had contributed greatly to the lineage of Star. Moreover, when Jian Wushuang had only just arrived in the 10 sanctuaries back then, it had been Lei Chao who guided him personally. Furthermore, when Jian Wushuang was clearing the inverse cultivation test, Lei Chao had protected him quietly from the side. Hence, it could be said that Lei Chao had taken great care of Jian Wushuang. As such, after knowing that Lei Chao was in danger this time around, Jian Wushuang had rushed over to rescue him without any hesitation. However, the scene that had occurred in front of him was something that he had never expected. Chapter 1736, Soul Control. Chapter 1736, Soul Control. He didn't die. Lei Chao's face looked devastated as he stared at Jian Wushuang. You kept your guard up. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold and he remained silent. He had kept his guard up. It was a fundamental awareness after he knew that he had fallen into a trap. Plus, he had already found it a little strange previously. Firstly, according to Lei Chao, he had been chased after by old monster Sui Gu for a very long time. In the end, he had had no choice but to run into Buddhist Demon Sea, but from the beginning till the end. No one saw the scene with their own eyes, only Lei Chao said so. Secondly, even if he was really chased after, Lei Chao shouldn't run so far onto the Triangle Island, which happened to be within the dark storm. One should know that it would be extremely difficult if Jian Wushuang wanted to escape the dark storm. After all, there was restraint of Dark Wind Blade. When he thought about it carefully, something wasn't right. But Jian Wushuang didn't suspect Lei Chao. But then Lei Chao launched an attack at him. "I want to know why," Jian Wushuang said coldly. "What? Hee." There was a burst of sudden cold laughter. The spiritual figure that had tried to assassinate Jian Wushuang twice appeared from nowhere next to Lei Chao. The spiritual figure lifted his head and revealed an extremely ugly yet cold face. It was a lady's face. "Jian Wushuang, let me tell you why. It's simple. Because this Lei Chao isn't the Lei Chao from before," the ugly-looking lady said. Jian Wushuang's face changed. "This Lei Chao wasn't the Lei Chao before? What does that mean?" "I understand now," King of Venomous Worms said. "Jian Wushuang, if I'm not mistaken, Lei Chao should be soul-controlled." "Soul control?" Jian Wushuang stunned. Soul control is an extremely high-end technique to manipulate soul power. Under normal circumstances, only expert whose soul fire has transformed and become a complete soul, and also focused on soul attacks, would know how to perform this technique. Plus, such a technique requires one's soul strength to be higher by a few levels than the other party to succeed. For instance, Lei Chao was an expert on the real god ranking list and he had at least lit his soul fire and gotten in contact with soul power. To perform soul control on such expert, the person who carried out the technique must have definitely already reached the level of Emperor God in terms of soul strength. King of Venomous Worms said. Once a person is soul controlled, the person is pretty much dead. He is only left with a body. Their consciousness will obey the instructions of the controller unconditionally. Even if the controller wanted him to kill his wife and all his friends and family, he wouldn't hesitate at all. "I see." Jian Wushuang's face grew in distress. He then looked at Lei Chao as his body quivered. He originally thought Lei Chao had betrayed him, but it seemed that it wasn't the truth. Lei Chao was soul-controlled and he had to do something despite himself. "King of Venomous Worms, can this soul control technique be removed?" Jian Wushuang asked. "There's no way to remove it. Soul control technique is extremely vicious and barbaric. Once one is controlled, he will never be able to shake it off. Even if you killed the person who performed the technique, the person who was soul-controlled would die too," King of Venomous Worms said. Jian Wushuang felt even more devastated when he heard that. It was obvious that Lei Chao had been soul-controlled and Jian Wushuang had no way of saving him. Jian Wushuang took a deep breath. He suppressed his fright and anger as he took out a token to send Hall Master Yuan a message. The context of the message was naturally Jian Wushuang's misfortune and his decision. After he sent the message, he put away the token. Then his gaze immediately went sharp and cold. He stole a glance at the ugly-looking lady. "Acheron Palace has good skills." "It seems like you're not stupid," the ugly-looking lady smiled. "As you know that it is Acheron Palace who is doing this, you should understand that you stand no chance of living if Acheron Palace launches an attack. So, I advise you to kill yourself instead." "Kill myself? Because of you alone?" Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold. "Hail all experts that Acheron Palace have arranged. You won't be able to kill me alone." "Of course," the ugly-looking lady smiled maliciously, "4 of you should take over now." Just as she spoke. "Haha. Young man, you're quite capable, I see. I never thought the 4 of us would have the opportunity to attack." A cold yet unbridled laughter spread in the dark storm. Then, figures in black robes appeared one after another from the nearby void. There was a total of 4 figures in black robes. Every single one of their auras were shocking. They hemmed Jian Wushuang in the moment they appeared. Jian Wushuang's eyes were cold as he glared at the 4 people surrounding him. There were males and females among the 4 of them. Everyone brought about extraordinary pressure to Jian Wushuang. They were obviously out-and-out Sir God experts and they weren't any ordinary Sir Gods. Besides, Jian Wushuang had never seen the 4 of them. Among the almighties that he knew, there weren't any similar ones too. 4 Sir Gods, also 4 top experts. In addition to the one who tried to assassinate me, there's a total of 5 Sir Gods. Acheron Palace does think highly of me. Jian Wushuang's voice was low. "No choice. You are so potent. With such great potential, even Acheron Palace has scruples. Hence, we naturally can't make any careless mistakes when we launch the attack," the ugly lady sneered. "Jian Wushuang, you are really impressive. Mo Ying's assassination power, Not any one of us here could compare to her. Whoever she aims at won't stand a chance to stay alive. But you survived from her assassination. And the god-destroying pearl that Lei Chao threw, theoretically it could kill you too. But you survived as well, a young man with ferocious features said with a deep voice. But that's good too. It gave the four of us a chance to attack. Everyone, let us have some fun with the genius today, the young man with ferocious features suggested. No problem. Hee, I will take good care of him. Don't kill him too soon, otherwise there's no fun. The few of them smiled savagely. Save the bullshit. Go ahead and kill him. According to the plan, you fight at close quarters while I am in charge of surprise attack, the ugly lady Emoing said. No problem. The four figures in black robes nodded their heads and then the five figures moved simultaneously. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. There were 5 figures and every single one was moving supernaturally fast, especially that ugly lady Emoing. She disappeared from Jian Wushuang's sight entirely. A war instantly exploded. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.